And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place.
You are not content with stories. Slice of lives come. Be my victim.
Through watching scenes of violence, through watching scenes of transgression, through watching scenes of horror. There's an enormous amount of sort of abattoiral excess.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Good evening, chat. How are you tonight? This is the 98th episode of Double Feature Horror Show, and I hope you're excited for it. It has been a heck of a busy week for me. How about you, TCG?
Oh, unbelievably busy. It's Christmas time in the industry I work in. So yeah, it's been entertaining.
You have my sympathy, man. I've been busy with everything else. Well, the usual stuff, but also the fun stuff as well. But you know, my work is made so much harder by scurrilous activity. I hate to say it, but it's true. You know, he's just trying to undermine me. He's trying to give me the knife in the back.
Is it Gatsby?
Oh no, he loves me and supports me. No, it's those dirty boys at Red Letter Media. Those rotten scoundrels. I don't know if you've seen this.
No, have they one upped us?
Oh, they tried. They tried. Look at that. Yesterday,
bruh.
I know.
No, that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable.
Chat, did you see this? Can you believe Red Letter Media did us dirty like that? The pizza roll cabal has just failed here, and they counter streamed us, dropping a mere 8 minutes before I released my video on Nightmare on Elm Street. Mike and Jay done me dirty.
Yeah, come to think about it, I wonder why Shrouded looks so different.
Yeah,
and I wondered why you had a beard.
Don't talk about waifu like that. People pointed this out. I thought that was amazingly weird timing. How dare they? How dare they? And also, how do you talk about multiple films in 47 minutes? I don't know. I can't get my head around that.
That is efficiency. Mima asks what I do. I do a little bit of this. I do a little bit of that. But I'm actually not allowed to say. Not publicly, anyway.
Yeah. Well, we're starting off a new theme for this month, as you know. We are doing Christianity and horror, Christian perspectives on horror. It's going to be a very different take to the kind we usually do. But, you know, we're in the middle of Lent. I think it's thematically on point. Yeah, all right, Gatsby, all right. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
You can tell he's got opinions on it.
Third man in the stream. So, yeah, speaking of Lent, what have you given up for Lent then?
I've mostly given up Twitter, except for just like post. I go in, I post a link, and I respond to DMs on there. I've done that. I've sort of given up all the fun stuff already on a diet, so I don't really have anything else to give up at the moment.
Fair enough.
Boring answer, I'm afraid. Are you dropping anything for Lent?
No. Hang on. I think dropping Twitter is quite a good thing, because it can get quite addictive. When I was borderline terminally online on that was the place where I would reside. So that's quite a healthy thing. In terms of myself, not really. I did tell my wife I'd give up moaning for Lent, but very quickly broke that. And given the fact that we do these streams, no doubt you're going to find a film that I'm going to have a blooming moan about during the Lent period. So it's going to be tough.
Oh, bless. Yeah, it's hard. Like a total, I think generally it's reprioritization is good. Like I was tempted to say, oh, I'm going to give up watching stuff. And I thought, well, I've got to do the homework. So that idea went out, but it's refocusing on more positive things, you know?
Speaking of positive things, John Gorris is giving up hope.
Oh no, giving up hope, not hate, I'm sure. That's what you're up to, John. You're keeping positive. Well, people are asking, Aydin is meant to be on the stream. I don't know if she's running a bit late. I know it's very easy to overrun. It's easy to get busy. Hopefully she will drop in, as this was the stream I approached her for. I thought that a stream involving Buffy and Angel is, you know, that's one I need her on board for. It was a custom topic. Hopefully she drops in. It will be lovely to have her. If not, it's going to be helmed by me and TCG, the DJ Luck and MC Neat of UK horror streams.
Wow. God, my days, man. Stop it. Do you know, it makes me feel old when you talk about things like when you reference like 90s garage music and like the old artists back in the day. In fact, funny enough, we the reason why I didn't do the Friday night community quiz on the last Friday of February was because we were actually at a friend's 18th birthday party. It was my mate's brother, and we got invited. But anyway, my wife turned around to me the morning afterwards because they were bumping a lot of 90s music, like early 90s stuff, you know, like the good stuff. And my wife turned around to me and said, you know, they were 18 in 2023, and you know they're listening to music stuff. What would be the equivalent had I been when I was 18? And then it dawned like it was 70s music, like the dancing and the excitement and the feeling of nostalgia for songs where they weren't even alive. You know, the equivalent would be songs like Staying Alive or Night Fever or anything ABBA related. It was just, yeah, it made me feel extreme. It reminded me why I've got greys. So happy birthday, lad.
Oh, bless indeed. Well, you know, speaking of making you feel old, I realise I haven't actually done your proper intro. So we could do that if you want.
No, yeah, go for it.
All right. So, folks, you know he's going to be here. My reliable co-host. He lives on my block and he drives and I rock, but he doesn't know who I am and he doesn't give a damn about me. It's TCG.
I am just a teenage dirtbag, baby. Hello and welcome to Horrorshow's channel.
How far in was I before you got it?
It was the she doesn't know who I am bit.
That's my okay. All right. That was a giveaway. I have
to say though, we are throwing it back. Actually, if we're talking about Buffy tonight, we are talking about the night. Talking about something in the 90s. This is a bit of a throwback stream, I guess.
We love a throwback. Although, I don't know, the early 2000s is in this weird area where it is old, but I remember it. So it doesn't quite feel retro to me.
Yeah. Like nostalgia to my oldest son would be things like Busted or McFly. And that just seems very weird to me. And
Yeah.
that's like early 2000s. Like, I don't know if anybody here watches programs like The Masked Singer. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, I must admit. That and Strictly Come Dancing. But yeah, Charlie Simpson, the lead singer of Busted and whatever other group he had, actually won that this year.
Goodness.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a, oh my God.
That's uncomfortable. Like when we go back to the 60s and 70s or 40s, as we always do, it's just sort of, it's old, but it has a kind of freshness for us. Whereas the 2000s, it's weird because it's tied up with actual memories I have.
I suppose, yeah.
But as this could be a meaty one, I feel we probably shouldn't tarry too much. Hopefully Aydin drops in. She is welcome. But we should get moving, folks, as it's lovely seeing you here on a Thursday night, and I'm sure you want us to get into it. Unless you do actually really like me just driving TCG mad with early 2000s garage tunes. I was absolutely delighted. Someone said I had sweet like chocolate in their head for 2 days.
Oh wow, really? God,
Yes.
look at that. The things you do to people, man, honestly. I've just noticed the layout's a little bit different on StreamYard as well. Is that an update to their? You changed it?
I changed our
Sweet.
colours. I like our colours. And I'm just using the one where we are slightly overlaid on the bottom and not entirely side by side. That's what I thought I'd go for.
Quite like it.
Right. Well, shall we talk about our topic then?
Let's.
All right.
Actually, while you get that set up, I just want to let the chat know I was fully prepared to be talking about Eliza Dushku this evening.
Oh yeah, faith in Buffy.
Nice.
She single-handedly kickstarted and drove the Goth GF craze. I swear.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I watched this, when I watched Buffy, what was it? When did it first come out? It was like 96, wasn't it?
It's 96 or 97. It was the late summer pickup. And they were genius. You know what they did? They could have fallen. They could have died on their butt in the first season, but they avoided the crucial mistake of they were given a half season, 13 episodes.
Right.
And then the studio loved what they put out and said, hey, we want a full season. And they said no. Because you know what happens when you take them up on it and you suddenly have to do twice the amount of episodes, like Prison Break, like Heroes season 1. You end up scrambling to fill the episodes. You chuck a whole load of plot lines you'd prepared in the bin.
Yeah.
Because you've suddenly got to double the length.
Yeah. I feel like... Well, no, it's interesting because we were talking about like The Walking Dead the other day.
Oh, yeah.
And I think season 2 had that problem. Now, for those in the chat, a bit of a controversial opinion, but I actually like season 2. But I do accept that there is a lack of things going on in that season. But, season 2 was a 12-episode season, whereas the first season was only 6 episodes. So it was, you went from like quite a high octane sort of pace because things had to happen quickly because there was a limited amount of episodes to actually we've got a little bit more time now to sort of spread out the story, and I think that was one of the negatives of that season. But they sort of picked it up a bit from season 3 up until about, I'd probably say up until the end of The Governor, really. So probably season 4, and then it went a bit funny.
If you're if someone wanted to watch The Walking Dead but drop out before like the point of no return, where would you say they drop out so they sort of they're kind of going out on a high?
I would probably say the Governor saga, the saga involving the Governor. That would probably be the high point. It, as much as it pains me, because they do bring in Negan into the story a bit later on, but it does sort of drop off for a couple of seasons. And as much as I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who of course is John Winchester in Supernatural, yeah, it just, I don't know. I mean, if you want to skip out the seasons between the Governor story and the introduction of Negan, then go for it. But yeah, I'd probably say it peaked at sort of like the end of season 4, I think, and then it sort of stagnated a little bit.
Okay. One day I may get to it. I may just do it. I'm waiting to see if that's controversial with chat. Some people might be deep in for the ride,
You should do. I mean, it's on Disney Plus. It's there if you wanted to give that a go. It's all there. I mean, you don't have to. I'm actually rewatching the seasons at the moment. I think I'm back on season 4 now, so I'm enjoying myself again. But I know that there's a lot of, and I know that the latter season sort of got sort of hammered a bit, and there's going to be a whole bunch of spin-offs as well, because you've got a standalone series with Rick Grimes, you've got a standalone with Daryl, and there's one with Maggie and Negan as well. Maggie and Negan is an odd sort of spin-off show to have, but again, you need to watch the show to understand the context behind that.
Yeah, goodness me. I just saw this and I thought, talk about the early 2000s blast from the pasts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
Bilbo, I remember. I remember. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting distracted, chat.
Sorry, that's my
leading
fault.
me astray. All right, I've chosen a very select image here because I don't know how deep we could go in this, because this is something that could be a whole series if we wanted to.
Oh.
But for a short touch, I just thought it might be interesting talking about the Buffyverse and faith. Seeing as we're talking about Christianity and horror, there's an interesting link there. And what I find is a bit of a tension in a series that I really love. For my credentials, I was there when it was being screened. I got all the VHS box sets.
Same.
The second they came out. Oh yes, I still have them.
Oh, that's a big regret of mine, getting rid of them.
Oh, I still have them. I got it all again on DVD when I needed to avoid the really terrible remasters. So I got that as well. So I've got the lot. I've done a couple of rewatches at least, and some random episodes have been watched about 15 times. Oh, I am a fan. I appreciate it on many levels. And having I think it was last year, waifu and I completed a watch. Like, it was a rewatch for me, it was a watch for her. Oh, that was good times.
Sorry, just the Enrieb says 2 cast members from The Mist were in The Walking Dead. It's actually 5, my dude, and I'm sure we'll go through that.
Oh yeah, we'll get onto that. The Enrieb, also welcome, sir. Also, all good seeing so many of the regulars in the chat. I hope you're having a great night. We're awfully scattered tonight, aren't we? So what I was thinking about, just when I was thinking about this, was there's a tension in Buffy. Now, it comes from Joss Whedon, an atheist creator who I never say that he pushed it too much. I think, he's someone who decided away from religion. He moved away from it. I don't feel that I ever noticed him in pushing that, which I quite like. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right.
I don't think he ever went full fedora, which is cool. But he was also a guy who was a little trapped by his subject matter. In a way, there's a tension that as a creator, he was kind of locked in via doing a series focused on demons and vampires, that he had a certain amount of Christian cultural baggage that he could not escape.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have gone full Chinese vampire, but I don't think American audiences are ready for the hopping vampires that you stick a little script on. I was introduced to Chinese vampires. It is an impressive thing. It is a very different phenomenon.
Oh, wow.
If you haven't seen what I'm talking about, look up Chinese vampires. There are some amazing martial arts movies with them. Yeah.
Oh, I've got to see this.
It's so good. It's so good. My memory is telling me it's Sammo Hung is in one of them, but I could be massively wrong. Right. It's the one where he defeats a sorcerer, he defeats vampires, then he comes back and beats his wife, and that's a victory.
Oh, so was that a Joss Whedon production as well?
Oh my gosh.
Self-insert. Anyway, yes.
Buffy, by dealing with vampires, dealing with demons, it kind of could not avoid a certain amount of Christian connection.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
You're having vampires, you're going to use crosses to ward them off. You're going to use holy water to see them off. There's, you could use just beheadings, stake in the heart. You could do sunlight, but explicitly try and avoid it, but they didn't. So we got the crosses, we got the holy water, we got the concept of souls. Why are vampires evil? They don't have their souls. And
Yeah.
with demons, you had exorcisms.
Well, you also had a heaven and hell as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, later that comes into it.
I mean, it's quite early on. I mean, when Angel gets sent to hell? I think it's I can't remember what season it was.
It's season 2. Yeah,
season 2. Yeah, that was in my head. But also, when Buffy gets resurrected, I think it's in season 7. She outright says that she was in heaven, and because I remember it quite vividly that she was really angry at you for being resurrected. Like, I think it was Willow who brought her back. She was like, I was happy there, blah blah blah. I just remember that. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you have a guy who has atheist beliefs, but does sort of attach himself to, or attach a story into some sort of like Christian mythology. But like you said, given the subject matter, it is kind of unavoidable.
Yeah, there were some workarounds later. My instinct is that it was something that had not been hugely thought about.
Right.
Yeah. Not a huge amount of focus had gone into it. Like, they just thought, all right, we're doing demons, we're doing vampires. And then with the massive success, you start to get some questions that come through. Like, I mean, not just the ethical ones, if you pick up any one of those philosophy and pop culture books, philosophy and Buffy, they always run it through the mill on, since you can put souls back in someone, why aren't you trying this en masse? They always do something like that.
Yeah.
But there are connotations I think they hadn't planned for, and they try to work around later. So some of those things are, I'm just going to get this here. Where are we?
While you do that, I just remembered I took my son to Waterstones the other day, and I actually found a Buffy comic.
Oh my!
I should have picked it up, because that would have been great to sort of share with you before the stream.
Oh.
Damn it!
Which I know I did stick with it a little later. I did go in and actually read season 8. I'm not sure I can justify that decision in retrospect. That was some weird stuff in that. It's like almost that thing of, sometimes budget restrictions are actually good,
Yeah.
So what I meant here, what I tried to get up here, was a demonic exorcism in Angel, season 1. Oh man, I love season 1. And we're going to do an exorcism, but we're going to explicitly try and de-Christianize it. So it's a specific ritual just for this type of demon, to try and move away from the Christian connotations of it.
Okay.
Which is sort of an interesting sidestep. It doesn't necessarily matter all that much. It certainly wouldn't be the first show to do that. There's a similar tension, I think, in The Conjuring, where they're doing all these exorcisms, and it's sort of how they feel about Christianity, how they do all this stuff, and then aren't very explicit avowed Christians, is an interesting tension.
Okay. Do you know, it's odd, man, because when I, thinking about this show, I kind of have to sort of put myself back to when I was like, 10, 11, 12, when this, when I was watching these episodes on BBC Two,
oh man,
at like 6:45, and it's interesting because the messaging, I'm just trying to think, like, if I'd seen something like this, like The Exorcism at the time, I wouldn't have thought of there not being a religious message behind it, but just assumed that there was a religious connection to it, because it was for me, and I'm sure this is the theme of Buffy. It is at its core, it's a fight between good and evil. you know. And I mean, isn't that what religion is basically? The fight, you know, the stories, straying towards the good and casting away the evil. It's
it does it with the trappings of Christianity, but I think trying to some extent to get away from inherent sort of, how can I say,
I mean,
inherent logical connections, if you are going with that.
Yeah, I mean, Angel isn't exactly wearing a priest's outfit, you know. Obviously, not that he could, given the character he was playing. But it's interesting that a character of his character would be doing it, you know, given the fact that, you know, he's supposed to be in sort of like the biological sense,
Yeah,
a baddie. You know, he should be repelled by those sorts of things.
It's-
Not exorcisms as such, but you know what I mean.
yeah. I mean, when it because of his makeup, because he does have the soul, there's that tension there. But nevertheless, there is just like this unspoken, very unexplored over, quick maths, 12 seasons of the shows Buffy and Angel. An unexplored thing of what it means to have a soul in the light of Christianity. What's it mean? And if it isn't a specifically Christian thing, then why does the cross work? Now, to throw it out, a contrast to this, chat, I bet a bunch of you have read this. I Am Legend. I Am Legend from Richard Matheson. A major thing he does in his vampire story is to try and explain these things, like holy water, garlic, and crosses, in an explicitly non-Christian context, which makes it quite interesting. So his vampires, if I recall, and I'm waiting for you to correct me, chat, if I get this wrong, his vampires are, you know, entirely material, but they are very psychologically influenced by their past lives. So there's a Jewish vampire who isn't bothered by the cross at all, but is bothered by a Torah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It might not be the Torah. I'm sorry. It's another Jewish item that I can't remember. But the point is, the Christian stuff does not affect them. I realize I set this on such a high latency that chat is probably a minute or two behind. So and typing things out. But
would these vampires also not go for people who consume pork in their diet? Just going to throw that out there.
Oh, can you imagine? Yeah.
Imagine that.
Well, in Matheson's world, yeah, they would.
Like, so
I love I Am Legend. We are going to have to. It's got to get adapted properly eventually.
Well,
you know?
they're making a sequel to it. Apparently, they're bringing.
Really?
Yeah, they're making it. I think it's Will Smith, and I think it's Michael B. Jordan as well. But I think they're going to. But I know obviously you've got the canon ending because there is the alternate ending to that film as well. I think they're retconning the alternate ending as the canon ending going into that second film, from what I've heard. Fez, just so you know, my friend, I have Jewish heritage, so you know I have the card. I can say the words. It's fine.
See, we're a very diverse stream,
and
so
it's all good. Don't worry.
Yeah. So Matheson really tried to explore this, but you know, I mean, I'm a big Buffy Angel fan. I do feel this is an area that they kind of glossed over, that they never explored. Like they got onto an area later with the idea of, because they do bring heaven and hell into it.
Yeah.
And their version, I think, is like you have hell dimensions.
That's it. Yeah.
Like there's loads of them. It's not just like the Christian idea of hell, or you know, one of the Christian ideas of hell. There are multiple dimensions, and any dimensions where you end up basically horribly tormented, those are hell dimensions.
Yeah. Well, do you know? I think there are comparables to this and Supernatural. So, like, you get. So in season 2, when Angel gets cast to hell, or the Hellmouth, there's the, you know, he's gone for like a year in our time, but it's revealed, I think it's 1,000 years he was in hell being tortured. And obviously, in season 4 of Supernatural, when Dean comes back from hell, it's revealed that he was there for 30 years. So Eric Kripke, for example, might have taken what Joss Whedon did with Buffy and sort of implement that in Supernatural. But the one thing that he did that you quite rightly mentioned that wasn't really explored in this was Supernatural did go quite deep into heaven and hell. The whole war against and whilst I think it was the natural direction for that show to go into, my only issue with that is that became quite a consuming theme moving on, sort of like with the latter series. And I think that had Joss Whedon gone down that route with Buffy, or even Angel, I don't know if Joss Whedon was involved with that production, but if he'd gone down the same similar road that Kripke went down, I think it probably would have had the same effect. It would have been quite consuming. It might have taken away it might have taken the attention away from some of the stories that we actually got from Buffy that were blooming brilliant. Although I will mention that Kripke's Supernatural was only meant to be a 5-season run, so it was meant to sort of conclude after that point. But
and did a 10-season victory lap.
Exactly. Yeah.
The absolute mad lad. I mean, I know that storyline gets controversial. I was very in for just how into it they got. Perhaps this Supernatural gives us a good idea of why Buffy kind of avoided these issues, because there's a certain sense of, if you accept the logic and you engage with it, that say a cross works on vampires because it has holy power, you then have to start asking, okay, so in the Buffyverse, Christianity is proven demonstrably legit.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, that's what Supernatural did.
Yeah, and then if you go with that, then you have to ask, like, okay, why the characters surely have to engage with that, or you have to explore it and possibly upset a lot of people. And I think at that point they possibly decided, oh dear, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
And I did feel like maybe it's just the time it was made. Maybe later they might have been more decisive and not sidestep the issue, but it does feel like an awkward gap for me, a sort of awkward, unexplored grey area. When you have Buffy go to heaven, an area she calls heaven, and it could just be a heaven dimension, one of many. It doesn't really get explored, and she's later asked in season 7 explicitly, you went to heaven, is there a God? And she says, no conclusive word on that.
Yeah.
And that felt to me like I initially thought that was kind of a cowardly sidestep. Like, I don't know, you relied on this plot point and then you bounced out. Like, there's a couple of moments where, I don't know, I can go into them. I don't want to maybe go too deep, but I can list them, where the show kind of very explicitly leans on an intervention that is implied to be the Christian God, which they would later retcon a bit. But then for Buffy to just say, oh, no conclusive word, it seemed a little, I didn't like it. And now I think possibly they were just realizing in story terms, if we go down this, we're kind of committed to a path that would probably take over the show.
Do you think that they were worried about potentially offending other religions?
That's a really good question. By the end, possibly. Like, Willow makes a large point of emphasizing she's Jewish a couple of times.
Yeah.
Although she is not practicing any way, she is culturally. They have a big sign in the magic shop in, I want to say, season 6, celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and a demon holiday, which I felt was more of a joke. So but they're showing they're aware of it. Things maybe it would have been a bit too sensitive to go down that specific route, but
yeah, I mean, although mind you, I suppose that maybe at the same time they could have been concerned about enraging the more sort of not radical element, but the more maybe the fanatical element of Christians. The ones in those days certainly that would. I mean, because it would have been sort of like in the late 90s, early 2000s, where a bit of a moral panic, if you will. I don't know. I don't know.
The American context is a bit different. Also, the American context, I hate to say it, my friend, 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
To remember back.
Well,
no, I'm so crumbly.
3 decades if you count the Buffy movie, because that came out in 93.
You're right. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think generally, we're very aware Christians are. The Christian approach is largely to turn the other cheek, but definitely shows were more considerate back then, I think. I think if they dealt with it now, it wouldn't be. We could tell it wouldn't be an issue as much.
Yeah. I think there'd be more inclination to be like, hang on a minute, that's not acceptable. Don't do that.
Let's have we did have a question here, Slim. No, that's not. That's a wrong one. It's also from Slim. What do you reckon?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but not in a mug you off way. But the thing about the Buffy story or Buffy the Vampire Slayer is that there were themes, to the show that were that were aimed at sort of like more mature audiences. And when I say more mature, I am sort of referring to sort of like late adolescents, early adults. The action side of it's cheesy and. The choreography could be a hell of a lot better, but the thing of it was very much aimed at people essentially just beginning to find their way into the world and sort of direct or find almost like a purpose and a meaning. I wouldn't have considered shows like Buffy childish personally.
Yeah, I wouldn't. They deal with immature characters going through moments of immaturity.
Yeah.
And it is quite weird to watch it. Like when you're a teenager, you get into like those really intense romances. You're there with Buffy in it when she's having all the mega emotions. As an adult, it's a different watch.
Yeah.
Giles did nothing wrong.
Yeah. And it also deals with things like loss as well. I think sort of immediately think with Xavier. No, sorry, not Xavier. Xander. In when Angel's soul goes bye. That was quite a big one, and it's definitely something that would be more catered to sort of like not like when I watched it. Put it this way, when it first came out, I was 11, right? And I think it was more mature for me at that age. It wasn't until I got to like sort of 15, 16 and realized actually, there's a bit more of a meaning behind, Boss Girl goes around clearing her neighborhood of the local vampires whilst copping off with one.
There's a heck of a lot in it. I mean, it does work best when you are, a teenager growing up with it. But as you say, that it moves up. If you grow up with it, it really helps. But also, that you get into seasons 6 and 7, and they're all about finding your place in a world that I think is quite evergreen. Yeah. And Angel really the spin-off series works on that idea of just how you go about as an adult in the world. And that's, it deals with things a lot more in a more mature fashion.
Yeah, do you know, I never really gave Angel a chance, which was a shame. I think I watched like a few episodes of the first season, but it wasn't like I didn't like it. I just did other things. But yeah, I'd love to go through and watch that in full.
I can assure you it holds up. But
Excellent.
yeah, well, I don't. I tell you, we could go massively in depth on it, and do a whole series, but I will restrain myself because this is just meant to be the topic section. But
yeah, I would say we should at least do one episode, and we have to at some point. We have to talk about the episode where they've got like the silent people floating.
Oh, we could do that. We could do a silent film and that,
because that episode was brilliant and actually scary. It was.
I'll tell you, folks. A few people said they haven't seen it. Honestly, find yourself a copy of Buffy. Give it a go. I think, bear in mind the first season is a little rough.
Yes.
It's only 12 episodes though, so don't worry too much. And then they get into it and it's fab. People say, Angel went through many transformations trying to work out what it wanted to do.
Right.
And I kind of love it. I'm a massive defender of that first season. I love it. Give it a go. Honestly, I think you're up for an amazing binge if you get into it. Some of it a little dated. One of the things that will be a bit hard is like it's intensely full of pop culture references that have not hugely aged well. Some of them are just like very American and very hyper specific, and it can be a bit of a culture shock watching them back and just think, oh, what the heck was that thing? What are they referring to? Yeah.
Sorry, I just got caught by Sim's comment. That is
Slim. You are determined to drag this chat into a late stage Carry On film. I swear. Oh dear, I will move us on. Was I going to say anything else? I was just going. Oh, I saw our own mini "Who Would You Do" challenge going on.
Oh yeah, no, definitely would. In fact,
chat. Do we have a take on Anya and Tara while this is going on? I want to see your takes on Anya and Tara.
My wife knows that Sarah Michelle Gellar was my crush back in the day, and she was on Heart Radio, I think, not long ago. While I'm in the car, and they were like, "Yep, Sarah Michelle Gellar's going to be on live," and I was like, "Right, everyone has to be quiet."
Oh, I was always Willow. I was always about Willow. Oh
okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I will pull up.
Although to be fair, Willow does drive in the same lane as you.
I know. I mean,
so
you can imagine that storyline.
I know.
In season 4, I was very emotionally invested.
Yeah. Oh, Cordelia, of course, Dr. Pepper. She went over to Angel, didn't she? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was great. She grew there a lot. There's an oh man, I shouldn't have raised Buffy because I'm just stuck on it. One thing I really appreciated rewatching it is, that David Boreanaz, who plays Angel, really wanted to do lots, and he was, to be in character, he's got to be quite dour and serious.
Yeah.
So you just see him take every single opportunity he can to do anything but that character. And you just know, like, they're writing him excuses, like have him get possessed, have him be under a spell, have him pretend to be someone else, just so he gets to act a bit wacky. Because David Boreanaz is a very like light-hearted comic guy.
Yeah.
And it's awkward. He just got stuck playing this broody chap who he is completely different to.
Yeah.
So he's just obviously going to the writers. Come on, let me pretend to be someone else this episode. Let me put on a Hawaiian shirt and pretend to be Herb Alpert.
He wasn't there for the musical episode, was he? I think he. Could you imagine what he'd been?
No.
Could you imagine what he'd been like if he'd done that?
Oh, it would have been great.
That's right. Buffy had a musical episode.
True. Let's see. Anya Wood, Dark Willow. Yep. Murgu is not a fan. Anya over Tara. Well, I'm biased, obviously. I'm a Tara appreciator.
Need to remember that.
Gosh. I've really got to drag this off Buffy. I'll be here all. I should never have done it, folks. I can talk Buffy all day. All right, let's talk. Before we go on to the feature film, which we are going to spoil in great depth. And so I hope you've done your horror homework. If you have not, I really, really would stop at this point, because this is a film I don't want to spoil for you. Read from that what you will, but this is one I really, really want you to experience yourselves and not have spoiled by us. I think it lands really powerfully emotionally, and I don't want to take that away from you. So if you have not done your horror homework, I would feel free to skip out, watch the film, and come back, so you get the full power of The Mist. And I'll also take a little moment that we haven't done yet. This is so true. Oh, I'm back. I'm back in the vortex. I'm back in the vortex. I've got to move. I'll also take a moment to remind you, if you haven't done it already, do smash that like button. It is super helpful to me. I have been doing a whole bunch of stuff here, and I want the stuff to get around. And YouTube, formerly Susan, now Neil's Feed and Seed, is it relies on the algorithm, which means that you have to sometimes do the slightly awkward thing of do an interaction for the sake of interacting, so that the video gets promoted to people who will benefit from us rambling about Buffy.
Sorry, is his name Neil Feed and Seed?
It's Neil Mohan, formerly Chucks.
Oh, okay. I swear I heard you say Feed and Seed. I thought that was some sort of instruction.
It's because I said formerly Susan's. My brain just went straight onto.
Okay.
Mm.
Oh man, change of management, man.
Maybe he'll be more benevolent to us. I don't know.
Maybe he'll be a bit more gently benevolent. Wait, Mr. GB.
Oh, so smooth. Yeah. So let's see the like smashed. I want. We got 21 people in here. We want 21 likes here, folks. Here we go. That's what we're after.
Oh, come on. We got 21 likes to go.
Yeah.
We got 21 likes to go. Come on.
God. Oh, that was so solid a reference, man. That was all right. While we're waiting for those likes to pile in, I'll remind you that you can, of course, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. If you're watching on the replay, thank you so much. I know that about 40% of you guys aren't subscribed. So you're here, you're watching anyway, you're hearing me shilling. So just press the subscribe button, help me out. It's much appreciated. Also, if you want to go a little bit further, if you're ready to take that next step in your relationship with the channel, you can, of course, join the channel as a member here on YouTube, or to get a far greater amount of that money to me and my research projects and Brandy, you can support me on Subscribestar, which only takes a 5% cut versus YouTube's 30%. So all help is appreciated, very welcome, as I do buy a fair amount of research material, and I'm gearing up to start producing the big project. So that is all very welcome.
Exactly.
And on one final bit of shilling, I will note that it has been a very busy week. Yesterday, I put out the third Real Horror versus Real Horror, which focused on Nightmare on Elm Street. My boy Shrouded Hand covered the real-life inspiration for Freddy Krueger on his channel, and then on mine, we had an hour-long discussion about Nightmare on Elm Street, and Shrouded pulled out some absolute bangers in the analysis department. He picked up on things I had shamelessly skipped over, shamelessly missed it. Terrible. So he rescued me. He brought some brilliant analysis. It's a really good conversation. So check that out if you haven't seen that already. That's loads of shilling from me. How about yourself, TCG? Before we get into The Mist.
You know what? I don't actually have a lot of shilling, I'm afraid, because as I said at the start, work has been absolutely mental. So I just haven't been able to sit down and get on with my main project. Although I might try and get something out a little bit later this week, which might be just a bit of a recap of a couple of stories that I've that have piqued my interest. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's just I'm doing like 50, 60-hour weeks at the moment, which is lovely when I look at my pay, but it's just it's a slog, but it's all good. I will say this though, actually, because I didn't mention this at the time when we did the Friday night quiz. The next episode of that, or the next show of that, will actually be on the 31st of March, at 9 p.m. UK time. So check your diaries, pop in make sure that you've booked your seat for when the tickets open. We are going to have, funnily enough, we are going to have Shrouded Hand back for, I believe it's his third appearance.
Nice.
And hopefully, if she isn't asleep or drunk, Aydin as well will be joining us for that one. Now it's been about 2 years since she was last on my channel, where we all talked together about the Salem witch trials, which Horrorshow was there for. So
that was such a good stream.
Yeah.
That was an absolute beauty.
Yeah, which is one of the rare live streams pre sort of rebrand that is still available if you guys wanted to check that out. Right, yeah, entertaining conversation, and we'll move on, I think.
Yeah, Mr. GB has also reminded me one other thing. If you join, the rumours of proper chew plushies are somewhat exaggerated. But there is also a brand new exclusive video, early access. Oh God, I'm rambling. There is an early access video that is out there on the moment. I was prompted to check out Terrifier. I checked out Terrifier, and it sent me on the weirdest ramble I've ever been on.
I heard, because I watched your chat with Shrouded today, and I heard that you said that you'd watched Terrifier, and you weren't too sure whether you would consider it a horror movie or not. I would actually say no. I think it's more of like a mini anthology.
It's a weird demo reel, basically. The guy wanted, and I did the finest urine-based analysis that has ever been applied to a movie this month.
Okay.
Yeah, I took 3 different kinds of urine, and my urological examination of Terrifier, I think, is a thing that I did.
Okay.
That's going to make a lot of sense to you all when the video comes out, but it is currently just an early release for members of the channel. I do like to show my appreciation to them, and they probably wish I would do it any other way but that.
I'll trust you. I don't really know what to say to that.
I'll send you a link, and it will maybe make sense.
Although, funny enough, if you want to hear me talk about urine, then you can listen to my Salem stream. We do talk about witch cakes, which has a rather interesting. You know that, Horrorshow, you were there. It was a rather interesting ingredient. We had a picture of John Dee's face. Do you remember baking away? Do you remember that?
Oh gosh!
And Victoria says that the stream's going to be on her birthday, so happy birthday on then.
We will try and remember to say thank you.
Oh, we won't try, Horrorshow. We will.
We will. But be there and prompt us, and we will most definitely do it. All right, we should get into this.
Yeah.
We should. Yes,
it's benevolent again.
Literally true. Literally true. I did have a moment, like when I'm making my notes, be like, is this sensible? And then I did it. Anyway, it's bizarrely classy, but you will find out on your own. Okay, talking about The Mist. The Mist is a 2007 film written and directed by Frank Darabont, who had previously done some of the best Stephen King adaptations, or certainly the most critically lauded Stephen King adaptations around. He had done The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. He recycles a bunch of casts from that, notably William Sadler, who, frankly, I think we all love seeing. Who doesn't love a bit of William Sadler? On this channel, you last saw him as the main character in Demon Knight. I'm getting distracted thinking about Sadler. This is an adaptation of a fairly short novella that Stephen King wrote that is in the start of the Skeleton Crew anthology. And if we're talking about The Mist, we end up in a sort of weird back and forth web of influence of what inspired what. Now, for me, The Mist in novella form is a really Lovecraftian story.
Yes.
And a little bit comes into that, just the aspect of there are massive forces beyond your control. You never really work out what's going on. You're focused on people of the tiniest picture, and what they encounter is just beyond their comprehension.
Yes.
Those are some of the Lovecraftian elements. That and the tentacles.
Lots and lots of tentacles.
Yeah, and the sort of beasties that are more prehistoric in form is a bit Lovecraftian. But you move on and you get something that seems to be a bigger influence on it. Now, possibly this was inspired by The Mist and then went on to inspire the film of The Mist. I don't know. But this really reminds me, I'm taking so long to find it. This really reminds me of Silent Hill.
Okay.
The OG. Look at that. You're not familiar with the Silent Hill series, are you, TCG? I remember.
I am. Well, I'm familiar in the sense that I've seen the movie, and I've seen the odd game play. I've never actually played it myself though, because I'm too much of a chicken when it comes to horror games.
No, that is absolutely fair. Now, in Silent Hill, you have a town covered in mist with weird beasties flying around. Do you maybe recognize that beastie on the left? Does that make you think of anything?
Yeah. So a certain scene in the movie, I do. It does. There is a similarity there.
It does. There's that. So the town now. We won't get lost in the mists of why Silent Hill is covered in fog. Partially, it was for graphical processing, so that they didn't have to render as much. I'll let you in on a little thing, chat. I can talk about Silent Hill for almost as long as I can talk about Buffy, so I'm going to try not to go down that line. But I feel like this game maybe was inspired by The Mist. It's a weaker connection, but I think the film adaptation 100% is inspired by Silent Hill. And weirdly enough, Silent Hill the movie comes out in 2006. This comes out 2007, and it shares a cast member. We have Laurie Holden in both films. She plays the hot. I know she plays the really butch cop, Sybil in Silent Hill, which I absolutely love. I will defend to the hilt.
I mean, it's been years since I've seen that film, so I'd have to go back and watch it again. All I remember is Sean Bean's in it.
Yeah. Well, it's great. She does this really butch, tough character, and then she's back being much more regular in just the next film. So a really good acting range, I think. So yeah, a sort of interesting sort of cascade of influence from Lovecraft to the novella to Silent Hill, which then when this gets adapted, I think takes strong directions from that it might not have otherwise taken. But nevertheless, it's not all that derivative. It does have its own focus. And it has an element that I think is really interesting. The greater threat isn't so much from outside as inside. It's humans can be the real threat. Although that itself is kind of Lovecraftian. But before we go further, I will just say a massive thank you there to... I've lost it. There we go. Massive thanks to Mr. Gently Benevolent, my favourite bladder analysis appreciator. Are channel members able to submit their own samples for a personalised analysis? pH. You want me to check the pH of it? I'm sure yours is very based, Mr. GB. Oh, that was terrible. Pun upon pun upon pun. Thank you very much, Mr. GB. Please do not send me frozen sacks of your processed mictural export.
Yeah,
Well, that
don't
was
send
a
any fresh
challenge.
sample.
That
Don't
was
send
a
the
challenge to stay family friendly on, wasn't it?
yeah. Don't deliver any fresh samples either while it's still warm.
Can you comment, TCG, just on this?
I've seen many. Well, as I mentioned in the chat, I've seen many urologists in my lifetime, but that is a conversation for another day. But I mean, if you want to guess what happened to my pants during my Soma playthrough, I suggest you go and subscribe to my second channel and find out for yourselves.
Ah, mega smooth, mega smooth.
Unfortunately, I can't remember. I have repressed the memories. It was too traumatic.
Ah, so Frank Darabont wanted to make this for a while. He was passionate. He's a passionate Stephen King appreciator. One problem that he had, though, is that he wanted to change the ending. Can you believe it, guys? Can you believe that someone took the ending of a Stephen King story and thought, I can improve on it? I, for one, am shocked.
I know. It's just despicable. I mean, why would you want to replace that ending? I have no idea.
With respect to Stephen King, bless his heart, aside from The Shining, he's generally pretty darn happy that people, if people want to adjust the endings. And as his rather endearing cameo in It Part 2 shows that he's fully aware that he sometimes just says, oh, forget it, and slams the, and then the story ends button. Just gets you a big old Deus Ex Machina and something blows up and the story's over. He knows what he's doing. So he doesn't mind if people change the ending. Frank Darabont took implications from the novella and extended it to something a bit more logical and delivers an ending that I think is really the strongest part of this. Now, we will get into that ending. Yeah. Oh, yes. We will get into it, but he had to fight to get it. Now, he was making this with, I will just check, I want to say Miramax, but I'm not sure it was. There we go. It was Dimension. Sorry, Dimension is the Miramax offspring, where they did their more horror-focused stuff. You will, of course, have seen the Dimension logo on all the Scream films. Now, he had trouble getting it through because the Weinsteins, you know, good old Bob and Harvey Weinstein, they had a bit of a lapse of judgment, if you can believe it, and they weren't keen on the ending. So, well, this was, yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned them because, as you know from the conversations we've had, there was a Netflix rendition of The Mist, which was released in 2017, and it just so happens that Harvey and Bob and some other Weinstein were executive producers on that one. So, yeah, make of that what you will.
Oof. Yeah. I will want you to summarize that for people in a second. I will, honestly.
Sure.
But yeah, so this is a case where Darabont, to his credit, stuck to his guns. He said he basically halved, or it looked to me more like he got a third of the budget that he originally was offered for the ending because they didn't want to take the chance on it. Now, I'll throw this out here. I don't see the budget cuts. I don't know what having an extra, I think it was 40 million. Let me just confirm that. Sorry, it was more like 25 million. I don't see what another 25 million does for this. Because for me, this didn't look cheap. How do you feel about it?
I don't know. The CGI was a bit lacking for me. And I mean, I know it's 2007, so I mean, we're not talking the standards that we're accustomed to these days. But again, I always compare it back to Jurassic Park. That was a film that was released in '93, and the CGI in that film specifically, you know, stands up even 30 years later. So I can't see, you know, was it 14 years later that we would go backwards, especially with the budgets and the technology that was available. It should be easier to make things look more convincing. I think we're only just getting around to that point now. So yeah, it was a bit jarring for me in terms of the graphics, but other than that, I mean, solid story. Yeah.
Yeah, I think something that helps, and I should have done this myself. I know the NREAB did this. The director advocates for watching the black and white version. Exact same film, but in black and white. And I can see how that would take the edge off the CGI
Yeah,
quite a
no,
lot.
definitely. But yeah, it would just be like it would just be like filming CGI in dark scenes, just to hide out the obvious bits that
Yeah.
the regular movie viewer would be able to. I mean, that would be me basically. Would be able to point out.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder possibly we see it a lot and we're used to better CGI, so maybe we're a little trained to watch it, but at the same time, as you and I have said, we can spot digital blood a mile off, and that's a fairly minor thing. Yeah, in fairness, they probably could have polished it up, given that your milestone is Jurassic Park, mine is probably, oh gosh, I think mine is Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
For just amazing CGI. And most of the CGI in Lord of the Rings holds up massively. And they had an incredibly rushed production. They could have probably got some more practical stuff in, which would have been nice.
Yeah. I mean, again, do you know what? I've got the trilogy. I don't think it's the director's cut, but I still haven't watched them yet.
Guys, can we have an FC in the chat for Filthy Casual for not having the extended editions? Just an FC in the chat.
Well, I haven't even watched the versions I have got. So call me what you want. But yeah, no, that would make sense. Because again, I've seen clips and stuff like that, and yeah, what was it? 2002, 2001?
Yeah, they start coming out 2001.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, they might have improved it, but I think it's a nice low budget. You might have got bigger names in the cast, but I think everyone does a good job, and I love that they mostly get character actors in. How great was it to see Toby Jones in this?
Obviously, the
he's a short lad who was the guy who was good with the pistol.
Oh yeah. What has he been in? Help me out, because I feel like
he's one of those guys who he's been in so darn much. So you will have seen him as the Hydra scientist guy in
Thank you.
Winter Soldier,
Oh
Barbarian Sound Studio. He was in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. You will see him everywhere, and you may start to think that he looks a heck of a lot like Apu Staya, which I couldn't get out of my head. He's got that sort of face. He just looked like Apu.
Brilliant. Wait,
yeah.
What?
Your chat, you might laugh, but you're going to look at him and you're going to think, oh yeah, I can see it. I don't think I've actually got any screenshots of him here. But you're going to think that next time you see him. So, what's your, you've seen this before, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
do you want to elaborate? Did you enjoy it then?
Yeah, no, I did enjoy it the first time. Sorry,
that's okay.
The first time I watched it, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, when we talk about the ending, you're absolutely bang on. That is perhaps the most powerful part of that film. One that's sort of stuck with me ever since. And when you said that we were going to be watching this film, I actually was a bit like, I don't know if I can watch the ending, man. I don't know if I can get through that.
It still hit hard. It's a tough sell, but it hit hard. And actually, I found some. I don't know if you looked this up, but I found they were going to make it even more brutal. I was reading an interview with the director, and he had something even harsher planned.
Oh God, go on.
Well, we'll get into it when we get to it.
Sorry.
I'm going to hold off the ending to the very end, just so I don't spoil anyone.
The only way I could find, I'll say the only way I could find that more, I don't know, traumatic, I suppose would be the word. All I would say is if they just change the camera angle.
Yeah. Mm. There's an interesting restraint, yeah. I realized I was probably on my 6th viewing of this, and I still loved it. Frank Darabont can make a great movie. He's got some lovely subtle techniques. Just to help anchor things in your brain, like when he will shoot back to Mrs. Carmody, he'll often just have the soldier in the background behind her to sort of visually connect them to each other. So you're already building up a bit of a relationship in your mind, so it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's a awesome subtle technique that he does, and the character work in this I just absolutely love. So I do not get tired of watching this.
Yeah, no, it is good.
Before we go further, though, you know we got to do that pint of Guinness summary.
Sorry, coughing. Yeah, no, definitely.
Do you want to go for it?
Yeah. So, man wakes up in the morning to find a tree has fallen into his house. Promises his missus that he'll fix it later on in the day. Speaks to a neighbour because I think it was the neighbour's tree, maybe it fell in the tree. It's slipped my mind. And they agree to go to the shops because they've got to go and pick up some bits. And but before they go, they notice, there's a bit of a mist coming over the horizon. What could that be? Who knows? Anyway, let's get on with the day. Goes to the shops. Seems to be quite a small place because everybody knows everybody. And while they're doing the shopping, a man comes sprinting in saying, "There's something in the mist." And then they end up staying in the shop trying to figure out what's going on. And shenanigans ensue, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too much into detail just because obviously we're going to be chatting away about it. But yeah, long story short, do you know, I will say, please tell me I'm not the only one. Dawn of the Dead remake, energy. Do you get the same energy from it?
Gosh, no, not. There's bits where they have the sort of desperation when they're set in and they're a bit besieged. Yeah. Dawn of the Dead has very different energy at different points, whereas this, I think, is more of a sort of consistent building tension. I can see some of it though.
Yeah, there's moments for me where it kind of, I think it's just because the remake and this film came out quite close together. And yeah, I not that it reminds me in terms of the story, but it just there's something in my lizard brain that just immediately thinks of that film whenever I'm watching The Mist, and I don't know why, but I can't put my finger on it. But I think it might be because obviously in Dawn of the Dead it's a supermarket, it's like a massive shopping complex, whereas this is, it's a supermarket that they're stuck in. I think it might be to do with the location, but yeah, something in my lizard brain just goes, "You should watch Dawn of the Dead next." Okay.
I mean, in fairness, it is always a good shout.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Also here, Andre Braugher, absolute Chad. I love this interaction between Thomas Jane and Andre Braugher. It's a good tension. It felt really mature and realistic, as people have noted in the chat. Yeah, they'd had a bit of a conflict already, and then this storm comes and busts. Well, his character name is David, isn't it? But I probably will just call him Thomas Jane throughout. You know how I do. It's pushed Brower's tree onto his boathouse, and then their dialogue felt so natural, so believable. And that moment of, we're gonna come together, we're gonna get along, we're gonna be all adult. And yet it also sets a scene to make it much more believable that their tension resurfaces later. And Brower here is just he's a treat to watch. He's so good.
I did like his character. I felt it a bit one-dimensional, but in a good sense. You know, it wasn't. Yeah, he gave me Karen vibes.
He did a bit, yeah.
It's kind of like the proto Karen before that became an actual thing.
Yeah, he comes in quite haughty, really. He does think he's above. John Gorris has noted something quite interesting.
Yes.
There was a bit of an ad lib by Brower, and as you say, the tension's in there, but it's diffuse. So the line that he gives is quite subtle. He says, "You don't like out of towners."
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like Brower isn't the only black guy in the store. There's quite a few extras, and some of them do go with him. It's I'm not sure if it's a thing. It seemed like most of the extras we saw who were black went with him when he forms his own group. But there's one guy who definitely didn't. So they weren't making a big thing of it, but it was there, and you get the feeling. The read I took on it was kind of a chip that he was carrying on his shoulder. Like he was really aware of it.
Yeah.
And yet, I think it is probably just a genuine sort of, it's a much more of a class thing. Like the two guys there who are the maintenance workers at the store, they really don't like being talked down to. So they see it as more just David thinks he's better than them. He thinks they're hicks.
That's right. Well, he calls them that, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah. And then Andre Brower's character takes a completely different reading of it, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, but they do sort of bring up again a bit later on. I think it's just before David leaves the store, and he mentions something. He's about you don't. I can't remember exactly what he says, but it prompts a response from, I think it was Laurie, like when she's like, "Oh, he says something along the lines like you don't like our kind," or something like that, and she's like, "Our kind? What do you mean? They're people. We're all people." Or something. Again, I'm paraphrasing heavily.
Missed that. I totally missed that. I'm sorry, I've dropped the ball on that one. I forgot that.
Yeah, they make so like where they hit this subtly. You're absolutely right. They do sort of make a bit more of a direct sort of implication, like he is sort of taking it on a racial basis as opposed to like a class bit. And then she sort of chimes. She's like, no, it's not how you should be talking about people. They're called, they're people. It doesn't matter if they're, yeah.
What you see is, I mean, it's handled beautifully. I don't recall Darabont ever making a big thing of those. Obviously, 2023 The Mist would be handled very differently.
2017 The Mist it's handled very differently. In the first episode, literally in the first episode, one of the main protagonists goes to a American football game with her pansexual friend, and he is a white dude with mascara, and as he's watching the game, he turns around and says, "Oh, that the black players there." He was like, "Oh, American football is nothing more than a tool for white male aggression." Is what he says, and then the girl turns around and she's like, "Well, three quarters of the NFL are black," and he's like, "Yeah, but they probably don't know it, but they're probably just oppressed." Or something along those lines, and then she's like, oh, maybe they just want to play football. It's like it's trying to make the point whilst also trying to cater to people who would be like, well, actually, no, there's more of a perhaps they just like the sport.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that in the first episode, but then it quickly sort of disappears from the second episode onwards, which I thought was quite interesting. It sort of pops up every now and again, but it isn't a driving force. But I mean, in terms of how it's handled here compared to how they treat some of the social messaging, even as recently as then, it is changed. There's a noticeable cultural shift.
It's the message in the film. Like in this, I feel it has to be in there. I like genuinely. I don't usually like the stuff being in because it's so awkward to talk about.
Yeah,
but it has to be in because a major thing The Mist does is show how, under a little bit of tension, all these divisions start to fracture the group
Yeah,
on various levels of justification. And like
yeah,
some people just like instantly start. Basically, The Mist is showing that we, under tension, we do tribalize. We do immediately go for our groups, and we can
yeah.
fracture in numerous different ways.
And they do that in this movie. You know, you sort of see it. But yeah, I think it's given the context of the situation they're all faced themselves in. I found it logical, or you know, all reasonable for them to bring up that aspect of it. There wasn't anything sort of unnatural or sort of insert message here about it. It just felt like something that people would naturally draw to, especially in a situation like that. And you know, with that tension building, you know, you as well, thinking like things like paranoia as well. I mean, at this particular moment, he thinks that you know, he believes that the dad, I can't remember his name now,
David,
yeah, he thinks that he's being pranked by quote unquote the Hicks and our main protagonist for the film, and you know, so that paranoia is flying. So it would make sense for him to then turn around and be like, you know, almost like Ali G, is it because I was black, in that sort of moment. So yeah.
Richard, is that his character in Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Am I wrong? Is that?
That's where I recognise him from.
Yeah, I know he's in that. He's like the straight guy character, as in everyone else is being goofy. But is that the one? By the way, Richard, was it your birthday recently? I seem to remember it was like February last year.
I think we wished him happy birthday on stream, didn't we?
I do believe we do. I meant to do it, so I was looking out in February. If we had missed it, Richard, I hope you had a good one, man. And forgive a belated happy birthday from us.
Absolutely.
Ari. Yeah, so what we're doing, we're talking about how it fractures. Now,
there you go. May. It's in May. I've got a little
14th of May. Oh,
Right.
we're way off. No birthday greetings for you at the moment, Richard. We're holding off on those. They're not ready yet. Like
what's
the
the
Grohl Shadvert. It's not ready yet.
What's the opposite word for belated?
We're a bit too previous, aren't we?
There we go.
Oh, man. I'd got it in my head. It was February. Oh,
happy birthday to everyone in the stream, regardless of where it is. There we go. We don't have to do it.
There
Now.
we
Sorry, Victoria.
Nailed it. All right. We should get into it. So, as to drag it onto topic, what I found really interesting here is this is Christianity and Horror Month, right? And we will talk about the main Christian representative.
Yes.
We will. But just something I want to point out at this point. We have a film where faith is really important, taking things on faith, believing in something way outside of your experience early, right? Jay, you are welcome, friend. Let us, don't think we forgot you. We should do this every stream, man.
I think we should.
If anyone's got an anniversary, anyway. This is an interesting case. So this is a moment of faith. This is a moment of witnessing. So the miraculous, the supernatural, has been seen by David, Ollie, who is Toby Jones' character, and the two guys, one played by William Sadler, and the other guy I can't remember. Apologies. They've seen the Shermanator from American Pie.
Oh my god, it wasn't it? Oh my god, I knew it.
Yeah. They got murked. He got murked by a tentacle after being super cocky. That scene we could analyze for ages. I mean, class, masculinity, 2000s era politics of that scene alone are intense. But we've got Super Nanny to appease. We do not want to overrun. this is a scene where they have seen something supernatural, way outside of the experience. They come back and they've got to effectively be witnesses to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you instantly see that the guy they think they can bring on board, an influential guy, just doesn't go with it. He refuses to believe. You can't blame him. They've seen some weird stuff. The mist is weird, but tentacles is pretty far out there, man.
Yeah, and hentai and wasn't really circulating. I don't think in America around about
No.
2007. So you know
I mean,
they
I've
wouldn't
got
be as educated on the subject matter as say a
no.
lot of
I mean,
internet
I
folk today.
wouldn't know about that. I've never seen Urotsuki Doji, so I couldn't comment.
Oh, is
But
that the thing? Is that the thing that you made me watch?
oh, that was DYE Fantasy.
Jesus, wept.
I still need to do that compilation of you and Harry and enjoying that. That was delightful. Maybe that's a member special I'll put out. Guy, I can actually do that. I know which stream that's on. Anyway, so you have this movie which is going to maybe go really, really harsh on Christianity, because the portrayal of Mrs. Carmody, it is not flattering. But early on, Darabont's throwing you this scene where actually people need to take something on faith, and they don't. They disbelieve, and they're wrong. So this is kind of interesting, right? And even before this, we got another moment. And I can't avoid a little word about the... I've tried to avoid it, but a little word about the end here. This moment, one of the first things that we have, this woman does not wait around. She goes out on faith. She goes out trusting. She will brave the mist because she has to get to her children. Everyone else is playing it cautious. She goes out. She is just trusting. She knows what she needs to do. Now, if you want to say that's a reach, I will absolutely say it's a reach. Yes, agreed. I am making a reach here. But she does go out confident, knowing what she has to do. She takes a leap of faith, as it were.
And she also leaves them a parting message, which is, I hope you all rot in hell. By the way, she isn't actually credited with a name in this movie, so we'll just call her Carol, which is a Walking Dead reference, because that's her name.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. We'll call her Carol.
So we've got these early things. Absolutely, Dr. Proper, based Mum. You know what else? Also based David. Just like, I've got to worry after my own kid. I liked it.
That was understandable. I mean,
very understandable. You see that early sign of the breakdown as well. Like the obvious thing would be, won't someone help the mother? Won't someone help a mother to a car?
Yeah.
And everyone just like instantly everyone is suddenly atomized individuals. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I would be going out into that parking lot, you know. This is understandable. No one is acting like a jerk in this.
See, this is why I take my kids everywhere with me, so I can avoid situations like this. I can take the David approach. Sorry, love, got my own kids with me. Got to look after them, innit?
So we go out. We've got this. She is later vindicated. The guys who witness early on are vindicated. The trouble of getting people to believe, to abandon the materialism, is a constant problem in this.
Abandon materialism?
Well, to have faith, to believe that something has happened that is outside of the material, is something unexplained by the current understanding.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
This is helped, by the way, by something that was cut out from the start of the film. Darabont was originally going to film something which was in a science lab in Project Arrowhead, which is the military base across the lake, which is nominally responsible for all of this. He was going to have that classic scene of like the scientist doing the experiment and it goes wrong. I'm so glad that we didn't get that.
I'm glad too. In fact, Arrowhead is in the 2017 TV series. It didn't get renewed for a second season, which make of that what you will. But I would have watched it because I got quite into the first season, even though it had massive faults. But it was sort of building up to finding out more about Arrowhead and just other sort of character elements and more understanding of how people were sort of adapting and reacting to the Mist. But I mean, in terms of the film, I am completely on side with you. I am glad that almost like that shroud, that mist was extended towards the events that happened at Arrowhead. And you get you get sort of like the reveal through sort of like the characters as opposed to like a flashback scene or an introduction to something that goes belly up. So yeah, I'm completely on board with that.
Yes, John. Yes is usually more.
Yes.
So we've got this interesting paradox, like Faith is consistently vindicated in this movie. And we need to bear this in mind. I'm going to take this a bit farther. I'm going to give you a ridiculously based reading that will have you smashing the down vote. Just kidding, folks. I know you're loyal. You're going to upvote this. You'll be smashing that like button like it was a Mrs. Carmody's head and you had a can of beans, you know. That's it's late. but I just before we go on that detour and go deep into Mrs. Carmody, I just thought maybe we take a moment here because you did bring this up and I wanted you to be able to talk about it. Do you want to cover the series and also the shocking number of Walking Dead cameos or crossovers here?
Yeah, sure. So what would you like me to go? What would you like me to do first? Would you like me to do the cameos or the appearances, or do you want me to just do a brief overview of
let's do the crossovers because you corrected the record on this one. Some of the trivia for this movie is incorrect. It is fake news. It is disinformation. We are fact checking.
We are. So have you got the images that I sent you earlier?
Oh, hang on. I'll get them up.
Okay, cool. So as Enria pointed out, there are Walking Dead characters or actors and actresses that appeared in this film as well. Enrieb said 2. IMDb said 4, but I've found so far, to my knowledge, 5. So yeah, for those who don't know, Frank Darabont was also one of the executive directors for The Walking Dead. He did the first season, and he also did the first half of the second season as well, I believe. And obviously, because it came out of, he'd obviously built up a relationship with several of the people that would feature in that TV series, presumably through the Mist. So one of the people that you're looking at right now on screen, for those who don't know, she isn't credited with a name in this film. I think she's literally just called Woman Who Walks into the Mist, or Woman Who Seeks Her Children. In the credits at the end, but in the TV series she plays a woman called Carol, who is I'm sorry, she's the same person. She loses her child in The Walking Dead, and we spend half a season trying to find that child, but fortunately in the Walking Dead universe she gets a little bit more help than she does here.
Here we go. There she is.
There she is. When Horrorshow said that woman who walks out to find her children is vindicated later on, she has the same sort of plot armor that Carol has in The Walking Dead. She's often found herself in a tight spot here or there with walkers roaming around. But she always seems to find a way to survive. And Woman Who Walks into the Mist also has that trait as well. So yeah, that's Carol.
I love that.
Yeah, IMDb, more like IMDb.
Yeah, here we go. I'll get the next one up. So it's this guy who I recognise mostly from Shawshank Redemption, a film I've seen far too many times.
Okay. So this one is a bit of a double whammy. So the guy that you're looking at, that's I can't remember his name in the film. I'm awful with films. But he is a character called Dale in The Walking Dead, and he's in it for the first 2 seasons. Dom says so is The Walking Dead universe the alternate dimension. I am going to get to that because I have 2 examples where you could make that argument. So he's in the first 2 series. Again, he plays again a very sort of similar character as in The Mist. You know, he's a more mature head. I found him to be kind of like a calming voice. You know, he's quite, you know, he seems to be rather intelligent and is very smart, you know, very wise with his words. And then in the background here, you've got, again, I don't know her name from the film. But
Laurie Holden, right?
Laurie Holt, that's it, yeah. And she is, I believe her character name is called Laurie as well in The Walking Dead. She's in the first 4 seasons. And she's originally, again, along with Dale and Carol, Rick meets their group and sort of links up with them in the first season. And Laurie's one of the people out there that is in Atlanta at the time, scavenging, and that's how they meet. But yeah, she goes through it as well. Again, she has very similar character traits as well to the character in this film. She kind of wants to help, but can also be a bit useless at the same time. She's also the character in this film with a gun, and in the Walking Dead series, it's odd because in The Mist she doesn't really know how to use the firearm, but she just carries it because her dad wants her to. And her dad in The Walking Dead, you hear that, you know, he wanted also her to have something to protect her, but she doesn't have anything on hand, so Shane ends up training her to use a firearm. So just a little thing there that I found. This guy, now I do know his name in The Mist. His name is Morales. And the only reason why I know that is because, and here's the first theory, Dom, is this guy in The Walking Dead is also called Morales. He's in the first season. I think he's in the first 5 episodes. But he does reappear later on in the series. I can't remember when that is. I think it might be beyond my point of watching it.
There he is. Look at him.
But yeah,
transformed. He's a bit hench in this, isn't he?
Yeah. But this is an appearance. This is his appearance later on in the series. So yeah,
he looks like he could sell me a book on the Elite Theory.
But by this point, he definitely gone through some ish.
Yeah, buy it now. Buy it.
But
now.
yeah, so this is my first theory as to why these 2 people are the same, or from an alternate dimension, because they have the same name and they're the same person.
Yeah, I like
4.
That's a modest reach. I think there's only the one more. The guy. Oh, this is a guy that gets left off.
This is the guy who gets left off of the IMDb score.
The finale.
So the first one. So this will be the guy from. Yes, here we are. So
I'm going to zoom in for you there.
Yeah. So the guy on the left is one of the military people in The Mist. Quite an interesting scene when things get revealed a bit later on.
Private Jessup.
That's it. Private Jessup. Yes. And he cameoed in the first 2 episodes of The Walking Dead as the tank zombie, or the tank walker, I should say.
I've got to say, this guy, the tank zombie mode, looks very deliberately like the main zombie in Day of the Dead. Back me up, guys. The one who's being trained to use a phone. Do you think so? Am I crazy with that?
Come to the hospital.
I can see it. I can see it.
But
it would be a heck of a reference. I'd love it.
Yeah. Again, this is what I think it was a reference as well, because or at least maybe a nod to them being in the same universe. Is they're both military guys?
Oh yes, of course. Slim, yeah, absolutely. That's Laurie Holden. She was in Silent Hill movie. We will cover it. It's one of those films with a bad reputation that I absolutely love, and I'm gonna find a chance to cram it in somehow.
Bub, what's good?
Oh, there we go. Bub's the name of the zombie in Day of the Dead. Also criminally underrated, I would say. Yeah, I like the theory. I like the crossover theory. I found this guy, Private Jessup. I'm trying to choose my words here. He was a little odd to look at.
Yeah.
Like he just looked at like even now he kind of looks like a PS2 graphics. He had a slightly AI looking face. I don't know if it was just the way they made him, like he was
you're
too
not.
smooth.
You're not wrong. He looks like anyone that you can picture of, but without actually looking like them. That's how I sort of read it. It's like I really recognize that face. I checked through his IMDb list, and I'm like, I recognize him in absolutely nothing. Oh wait, he's in The Walking Dead. Oh, that's why I don't recognize him, is because he's caked in makeup. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting, and he has that random scene with the one chat. Don't think I didn't see you being thirsty for the cashier, Sally.
Although mind you,
I saw you thirsting after what's her name, Alexa Davalos.
although mind you saying
my
that,
God.
the
She was
actor's
in
name's
Chronicles of Riddick.
yes, he's in Dexter.
Oh wow!
I think who this guy is? Is he?
Wait, hang on. No, I've
Who are you
messed
talking
up
about?
here, TCG. You know what?
What?
I was having a go at chat for being thirsty about Sally, the cashier, who he cops off with.
Right.
And I was just checking, and I'm like, oh, she's in Chronicles of Riddick.
Ah.
And
Okay.
what else is she in? She's only an angel.
Ah.
I'm like, do you see? It's like, it's all connected. It's all, we
Mental.
need one unified theory. Yeah, she was a saucy sort of character in Angel. She was always in ridiculously tight red leather pants, or were they PVC or something? And she had superhuman powers, and they clearly liked her. They got her in about three or four times, I think, in the fourth season. Underused, she was fantastic.
Sam Witwer was in Dexter as well. He played a character called Neil Perry. Oh my God, that's where I recognise him.
What, Sam Witwer?
Yes. So, have you watched any Dexter at all?
Oh yeah, ages ago.
So, do you remember in the first series, there's a guy who claims to be the ice truck killer, wearing the orange jumpsuit?
Oh, no.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's him. It's him.
Okay.
He also does a lot of voice acting work for Star Wars Lego games and Star Wars games.
How random.
Just random. Yeah. Yeah.
Dear.
Hang on, I don't know if it's going to work. Right. Hold on. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. We'll carry on.
Okay. So we'd have a quite like a focused way of talking about the Mist to be on theme for this month's theme, which is Christianity and horror. So we might have a less broad approach to this than we would another film. So forgive us.
My bad.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I'm just getting too excited with all these crossovers and references and character connections. It's mental.
We've got a Mist multiverse. We can franchise this. We can do it.
It is divine.
Oh, this is so true, though. This is me. This is 100% me. Just like I can't watch something without saying, "Was he in?" And I have to look it up now because it drives me mad. Oh dear. Absolutely busted. TCG, come on, you know you do that too. It's not just me.
Oh, I'm terrible.
Yeah. Oh dear. So okay, as we've said, you have the threat outside, which is a threat of the unknown. But the big thing in this is that actually humans, we splinter. Actually, on a kind of base level, we are not a massive sort of group together, come by our happy family, looking like a Gap advert. We naturally splinter at the least provocation. I bet there was probably a fight in your school over who'd got Pokemon Blue or Pokemon Red. I bet you probably held down someone who chose Bulbasaur as a starting Pokemon and gave them a well-deserved nuggie.
No,
right?
we would no. You're absolutely wrong. We'd bog wash them.
Oh yes, That's a swirly for you Americans. A swirly. This is what I think is so powerful, as it does recognize, we splinter. We are incredibly tribal. It's something we will do with the least provocation. We will, we kind of have processes where we will, we do storming, norming, conforming, performing. Let's ignore the other bits that are about working together as a team. We're going to talk about the bits of storming where there's kind of a chaos and people will not know how to relate to each other, but then they will find ways to relate, but then they can equally find stronger connections. So they break those relations and form new alliances. Eventually you do form something fairly solid. And that's what happens here. I'm bringing management speak. I'm kind of recycling something that was in my last stream on 12 Angry Men. But we see this here. We see that people form these short alliances, they break them, they reform. They're doing it by race, they're doing it by class, they're doing it by, are you a local or an out-of-towner? They do it by profession, the workers of the store versus other people. It's all in there. We make these alliances on, some would say trivial bases, some would say profound bases, and then we'll break them up as we find a stronger connection. Here, eventually we see that happen over the course of the mist, and it seems very well judged.
Yeah.
You have sort of what feels to me like Andre Braugher's group is the firm rationalists. They, maybe it's harsh, but they are just determinedly materialistic. They do not believe what's going on. They will not acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And they move out. You have the... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say all they were missing were fedoras that they could tip their hats to.
They could have been a bit...
Yeah, actually.
They were sort of really determined not to take anything in and recognise that the situation might be a little above their pay grade. An understandable response, but they do not come off well. Then you have the very fervent Mrs. Carmody group. Mrs. Carmody is religious and is kind of an outcast, we're told. She's never fitted in. She's stuck to her faith. And she's not a kindly presented figure. You know, she's not someone I recognise from my own church or any church I've been to, but she is a very convenient punching bag. I said pumping bag. Don't clip that. Move on. It's all the MILF manner stuff, I tell you. It's got into my brain. So
yeah, she seemed very much... what's the name of that church?
Westboro Baptist.
Westboro, yeah. She seemed very Westboro Baptist. Sort of
she has... We'll cover her more in detail, but she has a lens that she can apply. It is of the very evangelical, although unspecified, denomination, which I think was probably pulling the punch, trying to avoid upsetting more people. And before we delve deeper into that, we've got David's group. Now, obviously, we're more sympathetic because David is our protagonist. And something I love is that he doesn't immediately step up to be a hero. It just sort of naturally emerges from believable interactions.
Yeah.
I really like that. I really, really like that. His group is of the something weird is going on, but I don't think it's a Christianity. I don't think that explanation is right, but I'm looking what's happening. I'm open to believing something weird's going on, but I'm not that definite. Do you think that's a kind of fair summary of them? They're kind of mid-ground?
Yeah, I'd probably say that David's group was more like rationalistic in terms of trying to sort of like process what was going on. Whereas, was it Andrew? I'm going to call my lawyer on you.
I should know his name. Andre Braugher, whose character name is Brent Norton.
I would.
We never remember the names. Come on.
Yeah, I would describe them as more skeptical, as more of a skeptic group.
Mm. Yeah, it's fair to say, like, they're not avowedly skeptic. They are,
Yeah.
you know, they're working off what they see, and they are open-minded enough to, how can we say, make inferences, not rule things out. But they are more in the material plane.
Mm.
But they'll basically say, look, if I see it, I'll include it in my
But
understanding.
yeah, just to sort of challenge back on that though,
Mhm.
when they have the encounter with the tentacles in the when they're trying to get the generator going, there's David says to Andre, a few times, like, come down, we will show you what's there, and he's like, nah, you're all right,
That's true. That's true. He does refuse to
because
go along.
again, he's already sort of preparing an excuse as to why. Is already sort of like trying to justify, look, well, if I go down there and if I see this, it's obviously you guys trying to make a break. But it's um so he's already dismissing the evidence that's put in front of him, and he's just outright, no, I don't trust it. I don't trust your source. It's not a BBC article. It's
Mm.
some dude on the internet who
Yeah,
linked a bit shit
fact
article.
checked. No source.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, it's not on. It wasn't on Snopes, so it's not a source.
Yeah,
He was that guy basically. Like,
he.
yeah, you could see it and believe it. That would be that's why I think David would not David. Yeah, David would be more of and his group would be classified more as rational, because they see it, they include it into their thought processes to try and understand what's going on, and then they adapt and evolve
Mm.
as the situation progresses. Whereas you've got one guy who's like, nope, don't want to know. I don't believe you. Doesn't matter what you show me. I'm not going to believe it. And then you've got crazy evangelical lady here
Mm.
thinking it's the second coming. I will say, just sort of touch on an earlier point, and I think it's the TV series that does this, because that mentions this. But yeah, the chaos that it descends into. They say an interesting line in that, and it's we're only 9 mils away from anarchy.
Mm.
And I think that was a philosopher who said that or something. But yeah, it rings very true in this film in particular.
Oh, it really is. I mean, I think we've probably seen it, to be honest. Yeah, we've seen things get messy. Think of the brief bit of chaos we saw in 2020 when Bogrol was a bit short.
Yeah.
The politeness broke, and it broke in different areas, and the different expectations about civility.
Yeah.
And it's like, once you see some of it breaking, the temptation is to break yourself. Like, why am I going to stick by the rules here?
Yeah, no one else is doing it. Yeah.
Is the thing you're thinking of, a civilization is only 3 missed meals away from anarchy or barbarism?
Probably, yeah. They said
Mm.
9 mils from anarchy, but I mean, it could be.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Slim's got it 3
yeah.
days without food. Sounds about right.
9 meals, 3 breakfast, 3 lunch, 3 dinner. Yeah. So that, yeah.
Yeah, the NREB. I think that's a good summation. The neutral group are like the disorganized mass, who eventually they go with the flow. The organized minority will, of course, defeat them every time, and they effectively start moving into different groups.
I mean, mostly Mrs. Carmody's congregation they start flocking into, because she starts making predictions that turn out to come true.
Yes, she does. She does. So like it's a difficult one for me. This portrayal is not flattering. It's a very if you wanted to have a go at Christianity, this is a character you would write. It's someone who, I think, as far as the film shows us, isn't attributed to affiliated with any church. It is not well socially integrated. Is also someone not socially graceful. So we have that rather mean intro scene where Laurie Holden's character comes across her and extends a hand of friendship, and this very pious lady is actually incredibly cruel and says, if I want a friend like you, I will squat and excrete one out. Now, she doesn't stick by the family-friendly filter that I have on this screen, but it's not a flattering portrayal. I think it is designed, as you said, TCG, to be a lot more like a Phelps. And you do, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, but you do get a sort of a bone thrown at you when there's the old biker guy who, the really tough guy with a massive knife, who says, you know, he says to her, he rebukes her, "Hey lady, I believe in God too. I'm just not an a-hole about it."
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And John, as you say, yeah, she is an outcast. It's possible that she hardened a bit more. I still find it a bit weird to think that she wouldn't be in a church, but in fairness, I don't have hugely strong evidence that she isn't affiliated to anything. It's just a bit odd.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, one way of looking at her character is, yeah, you could look at it as almost like an attack on the Christian faith, I guess. But I suppose another way of looking at it would be, now I want to try and think how I'll say this, but one way of looking at it is that she is everything that the Christian faith isn't representative of, and those of the Christian faith who aren't absolute lunatics, like, you know, the extreme minority, can identify as not being that and say, well, that doesn't represent us. If she started proselytizing to us like that, we would know that, yeah, this isn't, she's not on board with what we believe. Yeah, butchered what's in my mind, but yeah, I think essentially, I don't think any sort of, and again, I say this because of the time it was made, but I don't think if there was any sort of, if the takeaway from someone watching this film was that, oh, they're having a dig at Christianity, I don't think that was intentional on their part. I think they just needed a crazy lady, and, you know, 2000s America, hell, even Britain, really. I mean, you know, it was a very different place, and so it's easy to take something that you can easily recognize and twist it, distort it into something that claims to be what you believe in and what your values are, but are completely inverted.
I think we should probably clarify. Oh, also, hey, Chrominian, good to see you, mate.
Yo.
Hey, we're in the middle of the mist. We are going to be spoiling the whole thing, so just making sure I don't want anyone spoiled by it. 72, sorry, this will be an American reference. So the Westboro Baptist Church, they aren't as prominent as they were now, but they were very notorious for protesting funerals. It's difficult on a family-friendly stream, but they are very famous for their signs, which are usually God hates and almost like figs. Think of like figs, but something you would say if the stream were not family-friendly. There's a popular theory that they're largely a bit of a kind of a legal scam to sue when they're seen off, and sue for an infringement of rights, but I have not looked into them for a very, very long time. Yes, the God hates flags, absolutely. Those are the guys. That's Westboro Baptist Church. Yeah, it's tricky. It's very difficult in this. I can see what you mean. She's not someone you're meant to admire. You can see the power in it. The idea is that people are going to her because she's made predictions that are paying off, and they are desperate. And I was thinking that, bearing in mind this, we've talked already in the stream about the importance of when something was made. Earlier, it was about just the difference in 10 years and the level of the message that we see in this. This is made 2007. The new atheist thing was kind of at its peak at that point.
I don't even think it was at its peak. Was it even at its peak at that point? I
About
mean,
2006 was okay. Maybe 2006 it really kicked off, and I wondered maybe that influenced it a bit. And there's a desire to sort of, or a feeling that you could go a bit bolder if you're making criticisms of Christian expression that you that was very outmoded. You know, Mrs. Carmody talks about things that are seen as affronts to God, and she goes for a couple of the sort of more extreme examples. I'm afraid my brain is failing me, but I think she does even explicitly throw abortion in there. We're not debating that on the stream. We're not talking about the pros and cons, and we're not miring the stream in that discussion, but she does throw that in there. And it's difficult because she's a very objectionable character, and I'm looking more for, is there someone who's sort of a nice counterpoint in it? You know, is there a nicer Christian role model in this?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the things that the TV show does, which I found quite interesting, was the Mrs. Carmody, or whatever her name is, character model in that film, in that TV series, is actually she's a naturist who loses her husband at the start. Not even to the mist; it was to some guy stuck in it, and that sends her a bit doolally. And she ends up being in a church with a priest, and then she starts sort of like proselytizing nature as, you know, the mist being sort of like a natural event, and it's Mother Nature taking back, you know, that sort of spiel. And she actually gets into a direct conflict with the priest over whether what's happening is a divine thing by God or by the devil or anything along those lines, or whether it's something that is more of a natural thing. And they end up having a trial by ordeal to settle the score. If you, I say, spoiler alert, the priest loses, but I and that sort of solidifies her her beliefs, and also convinces people within the church that actually she was right. But then you quickly find out that actually it starts all going wrong effectively from that moment on. So yeah, it was an interesting thing that they did in the TV show, where they actually pitted her off against somebody of the faith, rather than having somebody who is of that faith ramp it up to 100.
Yeah, it's that I feel would be a bit of an improvement. You know, it's sort of something that you tend to see is just an absence of Christianity, even though it is, how can I say, I don't want to see things entirely pivoted to, you know, cater to my individual preferences, but
Yeah.
It's a bit, things like the guy who says, you know, I'm a Christian, or he didn't say he's a Christian, he says, I believe in God too, I'm just not an a-hole about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a little counterpoint, but it's sort of, it's quite slim pickings when so much time is dedicated to someone who's like the poster child for poster child for atheism, really. Chromenian is asking, do you hear Gatsby? No, you don't.
No.
My little cat is elsewhere.
No, that's Pepper. That's my cat.
I will just point out, let's see, the Enriab, thank you very much both for gifting a membership. Slim, welcome to membership. Yeah. As the Enriab has said, you can now see some exclusive content. this is a good time to be a member, actually, because the fact that we're focusing so much on on horror anthologies this year means I have massive excuse to do extra bonus streams, because trying to cut anthologies down into just a few choices is tough, you know. And also thank you to the NRAB for mentioning an excellent Twilight Zone episode. The monsters are due on Maple Street. Yeah, I can see why this would make you think of that. Another one about how humans do tend to tribalize very quickly. Yeah, so. All right, lovely. Maybe we'll hear Gatsby the stream. We certainly heard him plenty on the menu stream.
Oh, yeah.
So something that does come up in this is, as we said, she makes predictions.
Yeah.
And okay, bear in mind that this is a stream that decided to go into Gerald's game, making the case that Gerald did nothing wrong. Bearing in mind that there is something interesting in that Mrs. Carmody's predictions, they're all correct. And there is a very spicy reading of this that kind of delights me and cracks me up.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the ending now, folks. So I'm going to give you the last chance to get out of this stream without having the ending ruined. And this is your final warning. I'm going to talk about the ending now. Mrs. Carmody talks about effectively the final line when the tension is up. Sort of, she's been whipping people into a fervor. They've actually gone and stabbed Private Jessup after having blamed him. They're talking about scapegoats. They're talking about expiation and sacrifices. And she says that David's son needs to die.
Oh, well, my God, I know
just
where you're going
at
with
the
this.
end. Yeah, just at the end. You know, we're talking about the end of the film. Well, David's son, along with everyone else in the car, aside from David, are killed off. And, well, what immediately happens? The mist clears. Mrs. Carmody, based and red-pilled, proven correct, doubters, BTFO'd, fact-checked.
It ain't just that as well, man. I tell you, because not only that, but if you remember the woman without a name who we call Carol, she survives, and you see her reunited with her children. So that leap of faith that she took paid off for her. Yes,
this is a film which is, I feel consistently, it's pro-faith. How it feels about Christianity is a great big question mark.
Well, I think, again, as I say, I think it would be unfair for the takeaway being that they're trying to demonize Christianity outright or explicitly through the portrayal of Mrs. Carmody. I think she is a character who is easily recognizable as someone who isn't representative of the Christian faith. And I think it's just easier. And if we're being completely honest, Christianity is one of the easiest religions to dog on because they don't care. Not like, unlike some religions that will literally go to war over it. I mean, it's easy they are an easy target. If they had sort of like the same responses to, or the same sort of, strict like principles that other religions do, you wouldn't see it as much because, that rot has set in over the years to the point now where it would be too late for them to go back because they've made it very clear, we're a forgive and forget bunch, we don't really care if you dismiss our gods or stuff like that, because at the end of the day we know we're right, we're going to heaven, you're going to hell, yada yada yada, we're the ones who will get the last laugh. It's by the by, and you see the sort of stuff that's going on especially in Britain recently.
I'm thinking of Wakefield. Folks, if you want to look up Wakefield School after the stream, you'll get an idea of what we're talking about while staying on the right side of the new YouTube CEO.
I don't want to get too into it because again, like that's not what I do. But you see like the reaction within the community to something as or you can even talk about South Park when they showed the Prophet, for example, and the furor
yes.
that came in that kicked off on the back of that. The Christians wouldn't have that reaction to Jesus, is all I'm saying. And again, like I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously, don't, you know, if it's taken to the point where you end up with a Charlie Hebdo situation, no, that's unacceptable, obviously. But you can surely get your knickers in a bunch if you know that's your right. But
I'll talk a little bit in code here, but there have been a few cases, including in Coventry Cathedral, where the place was explicitly, you know, like it was opened up for another religion to host a worship event there, and you know, a lot of the Christians feel that was over the line. We don't have hate in our heart for anyone. We don't want to be hurting people, but it is, how can I say, I think it's a widespread concern of how do you hold true to yourself, hold true to your beliefs at the moment, without being aggressive, whilst being forgiving, without condemning. It's a challenge, and I think many would tell you that church has frankly surrendered on a lot of issues. I don't mean to speak for everyone, but you just sort of see endless lines being crossed a bit, really. And I worry that something like a portrayal of Mrs. Carmody, who when she does, she mixes in sort of very extreme stuff, or stuff that to me seems quite fringe to object to, and she throws in stuff that's quite mainstream to object to. You know?
Yeah.
And it feels to me almost like that makes it hard to hold the line on anything, because instantly you're in the comedy camp, you know?
Yeah, I get it, but again, but this is what I'm saying. It's, you know, I think for too long now, you know, Christianity has been that punching bag which the media can sort of dunk on, because it's just not in the nature of that religion to sort of bite back, you know, unless of course, you know, it's something really, really over the line, as you would expect with any sort of faith, you know. But you know, it's a serious thing, you know. So, you know, regardless of what you believe in and stuff like that, you know, you have your sets, you have your doctrines, and you're expected to live by those, and you're expected to follow those, and you know, and practice those where possible. And you know, it comes in all different walks of life. I wouldn't consider myself any particular religion, if I'm completely honest. I do believe in, I don't know, I'd say I'd say I'm more aligned with the Christian faith, if anything. But you know, but I wouldn't say that I'm practicing or anything along those lines. I would just ascribe myself to those, or prescribe to those sorts of those doctrines if I had to be put into a camp. You know, like I personally don't get it when you get sort of like some of the reactions in other areas, but then like at the same time, it's kind of like, well, it is what it is, and it's up to ourselves to try and navigate our way out of this mess and come to some sort of agreement, because I think things can get a little bit tense sometimes.
Well done for staying within the YouTube terms of service. That was difficult.
But no, I mean,
award for that one.
No, yeah, no. But again, I don't want to go off on what essentially just sort of get back on topic. That it's, you know, if they try, if the film tried to portray, say, like, I don't know, like an imam, or you know, someone from the Jewish background, and try to push them to the extremes, there would be pushback.
Yes.
And not just from those communities as well, but from people outside of that community, and be like, look, come on, that's not representative of everybody. And you know, that's fine. Yeah, they'd be right. But with the Christian faith, it's kind of like, I think there's an understanding that because we're culturally linked to that faith, that we know that what Mrs. Carmody isn't representative of that faith. and so we can just sort of go, okay, yeah, whatever. We can
Yeah.
brush it off. That's ultimately what I'm trying to say. But I went in a massively roundabout way of saying it.
Yeah, it's just it's this nice thing of gosh. When I watch a lot of older stuff, what you do notice is just like how natural it is that characters will be in church. Sometimes it's incredibly related to the plot. So we're covering The Wicker Man with Harry in a couple of weeks. Without going into details, it's essential, the character's Christian. In other cases, you just don't see it. So I was watching Mindhunter recently, and just it's set in the, I might get this wrong, folks. Is it 70s? I think it's 70s. I could be wrong. And the fact that they attend church and they dress up is like, oh, that stands out a bit. And you just realize that you generally don't see it. So that when you do get a Miss Carmody as your only representation, you do feel a bit of a slap in the face. But then, as you say, I think very eloquently, TCG, that it is not really easily in the Christian spirit to do any pushback. The figurehead of your church is someone who took the punishment, and not just the punishment, but took the punishment for everyone. So it doesn't easily prepare you to fight back. I mean, this is leaving aside the issue of the legal regime which came in under the Dark Lord Tony Blair, where you sort of which
the Dark Lord that I've looked in the eyes as well.
Oh gosh, shiver down the spine. But yeah, the fact that he brings in a legal foundation that means actually sort of legally you can't actually give your religion in primacy. Gosh, we're straying into weird territory here.
Yeah,
I
think it's important to bring it up though, because people will look at a film like this, for example, and see Christianity getting dogged on, and it's like, yeah, but I mean, there are other ways of looking at it, and if you're thinking about why they dog on Christianity so much more, especially in Western media, there is a reason for that. It's because they can, because they know that it's, I wouldn't want to say permissive, but it's just we understand that with the other cultures or other religions, it's not something that is as permissive. And again, I'm making no judgment on that whatsoever. I don't care how you live your life as long as you ain't violent. That's my philosophy, and that I would say is a good thing. Like, I mean, dude, you can, as long as you're a good person, I don't care what you believe in. Like, it's all good. And equally, I don't think it's unreasonable for people to get offended or upset when something that they believe and are deeply passionate about is mocked. But if the Christians' cultural response to that mockery is to just turn the other cheek, then expect sort of anti sort of Christian discussions or representation, because you are by proxy permitting that. So it's not just about, we can dog on this, maybe there are people out there that want to dog on the other religions, but they just know they'll get pushback that they wouldn't get. So it's,
I think that's well phrased. Like there has to be an engagement with the culture. There has to be a pushback of some kind. It's never going to be institutional, because you do not have Christian institutional control of those things.
But it also has to be recognizable but it also has to be recognizable as well. Like, if you're, how many people deeply understand things like the Muslim faith or the Jewish faith or Hindu, Sikh, or you would look at, if you try to portray someone as an extremist in those views, and you didn't really have a cultural understanding of that, like even if you it would be difficult to tell the difference because you wouldn't have that sort of frame of reference. Whereas with Christianity, you do have a reference, you do have a frame of reference because you grew up in a society that is culturally linked to that religion, and so you can identify easier more extreme elements of it. That's why we can differentiate between, you know, your regular priest down the local church and those Westboro Baptist Church nuts. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I think that is such a good point. Like, I'll stay on this tangent because I think this is important and this is rich, and there's important stuff I've got to do as well. But yeah, this is really important. So the cultural knowledge is a major factor. We're going to talk about midnight mass next week, and there is a massively cringy moment in that when you get a character talking about Islam, and that it's extremely base level and cautious and hands off, and it's really disappointing. And part of the reason you have that is just because there is so little cultural understanding that you are left to talk about it in the most basic way. Whereas you can go in depth on because there's more knowledge of that. You can go a bit more in depth. You can have more nuance. But the other thing is, I think, I'd throw in is just a bit of the nature of majority versus minority. And this is something I've seen. Sometimes a little bit Islam, mostly weirdly, in my own experience, in Sikh communities. Never in huge numbers there. And the fact that you're in a minority, you become much more aware of it, especially if you have signifiers. So something that easily identifies you as a minority. Sikhs, obviously, you have turbans and other signs that really help you stand out. And that kind of solidifies your need to belong, and you will go a lot more for identifying with that group. When you're the massive majority in a country, or in an area, let's just say, I don't think you have that sort of gravity of identity. Like, you feel much more easy. You don't feel as big a need to belong to that. And you can get a bit more esoteric in what you use to bond. But I've possibly mangled that. But think about how you'd be quite specific who you hang out with in just like the UK. You probably stick to someone who maybe works in a similar field, grew up with you, or possibly is supports us, is into football as well, right?
Me, no, personally, I just isolate myself from everyone. I'm an arsehole to be around.
Good choice. But if you're abroad, right? If you were chilling in Shanghai and you saw someone else who looked like you, who was speaking English, you'd be talking to them. Those different you'd relate to the much bigger topic. I've kind of rambled here for a long time, so I'm going to move us on because I know we do need to wrap up. But before I do that, I want to say a massive thanks to Slim for dropping £13. Thank you so much. I hope I'm doing a good job speaking for the faith here. That's much appreciated. I hope I'm doing a good job there. And I also want to welcome a new member there, James Harrington. Welcome aboard. Enjoy the early release content. Or if you have standards, do not watch the early release content, but do enjoy the bonus streams. Seriously, thank you for signing up. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Prep. If you're referring to, I don't know what you're referring to with the monologue. I'm assuming you're talking about.
Oh, it's in Midnight Mass. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the one he means. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say because I did monologue. I'm kind of like sometimes when I'm trying to get a thought out, I do go on, but it's kind of like I'm doing it now. Like my thought process, everything sort of scrambles, and then it just eventually will unwind to a like a 1 or 2 sentence piece that I just wanted to say in the first place, and that tends to make more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. We should be getting to round off, but we are here. We've got to talk about it. We are at the end. You talked about. Would you like to just describe what happens in the ending? And we've already warned people about the spoilers, so we're going to talk about the ending now.
So yeah, this is probably one of the most brutal endings I've ever seen in a film, and I've watched Funny Games. So yeah, they David, his son, Laurie, and like a couple of other Dale actually, and another old lady end up leaving the supermarket, and they get into a car and they go driving. They initially go back to David's house because he wants to check up on his wife to make sure she's okay, but unfortunately she succumbed to the mist there. She was like webbed up on the walls, and obviously he was really regretful because he promised he'd fix the he'd repair the home. Unfortunately, their son didn't see it because he was asleep at the time, and so they carry on driving. Eventually they run out of fuel, and kind of sort of look out the front window, and they see this massive thing that they can't. It's really difficult to identify, but it's almost like a moment of we're not going to get through this. And so he takes out a handgun, which he then unloads and checks the bullets, and there's 4 bullets, but there are 5 individuals. So he sort of takes a look at each of the adults, and they all sort of nod their head. Boy's still asleep, and they're like, what are you going to do about what are we going to do? And he was like, I'll figure something out. And then it pans out to here, and then you hear the gun fire 4 times, and then it pans back to David screaming, trying to end himself. Obviously, but we know the gun is out of ammo. He then shortly after that, he gets out of the car, I believe, at this point, and is a bit like really sort of going through the emotions at the moment, because obviously he's ended the lives of everybody in the car, including his own boy. And literally within seconds, in the background, you see in the distance, sort of coming to the foreground, the military, and they are flaming down everything, and it looks like they were able to rescue people, and it looks like they're getting control of the situation. And of course, this was seconds after he just ended the lives of everyone in the car. If only he had waited that little bit longer. And then it gets even more of a gut punch. There's like a lorry of survivors being driven along, and in one of the lorries is Carol and her 2 children.
Yeah.
And he had the opportunity to go with her at the very beginning of the film.
Start.
Yeah. And obviously, he is absolutely distraught. And it left me absolutely wrecked the first time I saw this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely... Frank Darabont kills the music. He leaves you with the horrific silence and the echoes. You don't see it, so it is left to your imagination, which good. Yeah. The last bit of horror is his son wakes up and looks at him.
Wait, is that what the ending was?
No, it just in the car before he starts shooting. There are layers on this to make it land so much more. The reason there's only 4...
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't think that happened in my version.
Really? He doesn't just look up?
No, I think he stays asleep.
Oh.
Unless they've cut that little bit out.
It's just like he looks up. So he is awake when it happens.
Oh, man, I thought he was asleep.
I mean, I think I do have the longer version, but if you saw if you saw him go back to see his wife, I thought you had the same version as me.
I mean, I might have got that wrong,
Don't
but yeah,
it does happen if we forget a detail, but it just makes it harsher. The reason there are 4 bullets is because Toby Jones' character Ollie, he had to go for the kill shot on Mrs. Carmody.
2 shots.
Yep. If
Yeah.
he hadn't double tapped, chat, you've been horny tonight. Do not talk about whether or not you would tap. Then there would be the 5th bullet, but that is the minor issue.
Yeah.
That is the minor issue, because the real issue, as you say, is if it hung on even a few seconds later. Yeah. Slim. That's not. I'm not sure who you're talking about here.
Then talk about Carol, the
Carol.
woman on screen. Yeah.
No,
It's not,
Carol
that's
is
not
safe. Carol lives. Carol gets to her kids. Darren. Oh, sorry, I'm messing it up. What's his name? Frank Darabont. He was going to stick the knife in even more. So Carol goes by on the army van. She's been rescued.
Right.
His plan was that there would be another van coming
Oh,
along
Oh,
with
God.
people from the supermarket.
No.
Yeah. He was going to be that harsh, but literally just because the actors had finished and had gone and he couldn't get them, he didn't want to recall them, but he was going to do that.
No way. That would have been utterly brutal. But then, like, they wouldn't have survived in the shop. They wouldn't have survived in the supermarket anyway, because you know, Carmody wanted to sacrifice the boy and Laurie.
Yeah, exactly. But
And also,
it's
I find it really interesting how, like, the people in the supermarket were well up for, you know, killing Private Jessup, sorry, PC Jessup, whatever his name is, and sacrificing a small child and woman. But then when Carmody gets double tapped, the reaction from one of the extras was, "You murdered her." It's like, oh, okay, so we have you know, we've got definitions and lines still, have we? You know, so it was just sacrificed. It was fine.
Yeah.
So.
I saw someone write earlier. I was just having a look for it about how, you know, they felt I'd made the case that this is pro-faith. This is actually in favour of faith, and I'm glad to see that. This is what I hope to do. I think, as we've said, this is iffy on Christianity. I think Frank Darabont softened a lot of what Stephen King put in there. But Stephen King, I might mangle this, from his book on writing, I believe his line on Christianity is a lot like the big beefy motorbike guy. That he's keeping it undefined, but he's believing in the spiritual, but he is not, you know, tying himself down to anything. So that's what I believe his position is from his book on writing, which is a bit more of a biography. I'm glad I've been able to I'm glad I've helped out with that. So and it's an absolutely bleak ending. It's a gut punch. It's
just awful, like in a really like good and creative way. But it stokes the exact emotions that Darabont was trying to get from you.
Yeah,
it's
it does.
Worst. It really is. And you know what? As a father now, as you know, because when I first when I first watched this, no, what am I talking about? No, as a father, because always, you know, you want to protect your child at all costs. And the thought of doing something like that is just so unimaginable, you know. Like, you have to be desperate. Like, I mean, in the context of the situation that they find themselves in, you have to be pretty desperate to decide that is the right thing to do.
It's total desperation, but you know, let's contrast this with Funny Games, which you referenced earlier. Funny Games is a brutal, bleak gut punch, and it is without hope. The message from The Mist is positive. It is, don't give up hope. Never give up hope.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is no comfort whatsoever to David, but it's maybe something very positive that we can take away.
If you're Carol, Carol,
if you're Carol,
she kept the hope. You know, she hoped that her children were okay, and she took the risk to go out there and and brave what was going on. She faced it head on, and she succeeded at the end. David didn't. His son was all, throughout the film was like, I want to go and see mum. I want to see mum. I want to see mum. And he was like, no, we'll wait here. We'll wait here. He could have gone at the very beginning and taken that gamble.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, we have come. I think we should probably round things off. I mean, we could go deep on this one. I would happily talk about the scene in the dock for about 45 minutes for just dissect that just on that thing, but or on Toby Jones' character, who I don't think I stressed enough. Toby Jones is an absolute champion in this film.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
He's Ollie the clerk, and he's got his role. And then when he realizes the situation, normality is over, he grows into his own, and him renegotiating things. So he's no longer Ollie the clerk, he's Ollie.
Ollie
is lovely to see. The
Giga
Chad Apustaya.
I'm reminded of that bit where his manager comes over and he's like, I'm going to write your names down. And he's like, oh yeah, well, write that down then. And then shut the up.
Absolute Chad moment.
You believe it.
I loved it. All right. But I think at this point we'll move on to closing thoughts and scores. Now, I already saw a score come in. I'm going to try and find that. But TCG, would you like to give me your closing thoughts and scores?
Yeah, I love this film. I mean, I wish the ending was a bit more upbeat, but I think it is. As much as I hate the ending, it's more because it personally gut wrenches me. But in terms of the execution, it's fantastic. This is a film that I would recommend to anybody who wants to watch something that's Stephen King based. The tension, the drama, the CGI is a bit of a letdown, I will say, but I mean it's not the worst. And in darker environments, like at one point they go to a pharmacy to pick up supplies for a guy who set himself on fire. Watch the film, you'll find out how that happens. And because the scene is a lot darker, the CGI spiders look all right actually. But yeah, I mean I'd knock a burger for the CGI overall. I don't really know whether I should give it an 11. No, I can't give it 11. That's too high. I'm going to give it a solid 10 burgers out of 12. With what should I put in my burger? I'm not going to put any cheese in. No, but I'm going to put lots of tomato ketchup. And I'm going to serve it on a plate with the Shermanator's face on it.
Seeing the Shermanator is throws you off a bit, doesn't it? A bit of a mean casting.
Are we good? Richard asks if we're going to review The Fog.
Oh, interesting. If we do, it would probably be in a John Carpenter focused one. Or I don't know. I'd be up for it because I quite liked it. Some odd choices in it aside, but I can't think where it would fit in at the moment, Richard. But I'm not opposed to it because I did quite enjoy it. I really like seeing Jamie Lee Curtis and Janet Leigh together. It's really lovely. These are high scores, so yeah, you've got a 10. We've got an 11 here. I've seen another 11. We've got a 9. We've got an 8 as well. Yeah, cheesy topping. I can some people finding the music is a little cheesy. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Another
I would.
8.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, but to be honest with you, at the end scene when he does what he does, I'm not paying attention to any music or anything like that because I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's like, just hold on, damn it, man! That's your boy in him. I know he made a promise to his son as well during the film that he wouldn't let the monsters get him, and
yeah,
I suppose that's his way of fulfilling that promise. But dude,
I know.
So brutal. Also, just another thing as well. If you're going to watch this film, give the Mist a go on Netflix. Now, annoyingly, it wasn't renewed for a second season, so it does end on a bit of a cliffhanger. But it's definitely not as good as the movie. But if you want to sort of compare it to see what they did differently for the TV show, then yeah, give it a go. It's not as bad as what you might think, but it is probably sort of like a 5 or a 6. One of the big things they do in that film that they don't do in that film that they did in this one is the Mist doesn't actually have any monsters in it, so there's no tentacles, I'm afraid.
Oh
no, it's more of a supernatural kind of thing where when a lot of people when they in the TV series they say, oh, when I was in the fog I felt like it knew me, I felt like it understood me, knew everything about me. And then what it does is you find out later on that it sort of manifests itself into people that those individuals recognize and manipulates them. And
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, give it a go. But I mean, as I say, it's nowhere near on the level as good as the film.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of 9s. I'd be interested while I do my scores. If you gave it a 9 or an 8, which a lot of you did, what was it that knocked it down? Let me know what thing knocked it down from like a 10. For me, this is an 11. Now it doesn't have Tony Todd in it, so you can't have the full 12. No Todd, no 12. That's the rule. You always add the Tony Todd modifier, Toddifier. I'm not alone here. Look, his T is going with a 12. The NREAB is going with a 12 as well. Yeah, this is good. I can see it. It's not quite the 12 for me. So I have little questions around some of the dialogue given to Mrs. Carmody. I wasn't 100% sure on Private Jessup and Sally getting together. Some of the CGI, bit wibbly. And I think the music at the end, I like it, but I'm extremely biased. It's a kind of, for me, that intense music right at the end. That's one of those ones where you do a massive swing and if you can land it, you're going to knock it out the park. But if someone's not quite there emotionally, that music might actually knock them off. Do you know what I mean? It can be a bit overpowering, and if you aren't already at the level of emotional involvement with the film that music carries it, then it might be a bit too much and you're actually pulled back and you're just thinking about the music.
I've just realised I've been calling sorry to interrupt. I've just realised that I've been calling Laurie Holden character Laurie from The Walking Dead. It ain't, it's Andrea. I've literally just realised that now. And do you know what? It reminded me because Victoria said overacting of some, mostly the blonde lady, and I just realised, oh my god, I was like, yeah, her name's Andrea, isn't it? 'Cause
Interesting.
she gets
Oh,
exactly
I
the same.
like.
Yeah, she gets exactly the same criticism from The Walking Dead. She was a bit of an annoying character, I would say, but
Oh,
she
I might just be biased.
redeems herself a little bit towards the end. But yeah, she wasn't the most
CGI,
liked one.
big focus on atmosphere. Yeah, fair enough. It's not as much action. Okay, I can see that. People wanting a bit
Yeah,
more.
I,
What
I
else? I saw melodrama. Where was it? Over the top stereotypes. Yeah, I could see that. I can see that.
do you know what else done it for me as well? I think
CGI, yeah.
there were too many off-screen kills.
That's fair.
Like you get the two guys who decided to take a short jump, no, a long jump with a short rope.
True, yeah.
You get the Burns victim who dies off
That
screen.
was heartbreaking, man, though. That was brutal.
And there's another one as well. Oh, you get the lady who OD'd when Andrea was like, "Oh, can you look after Billy for a second? Hello, wake up." Like, yeah.
Yeah, that she in fairness was not really developed, I think.
No, but you gotta see it. You have to see it. What one maybe, one off screen. Okay, fine, fair enough. But yeah, when you get like, I counted 4, and it's kind of like, oh, right, okay.
Harrian would have been very upset with her being able to off herself so quickly.
Yeah.
Medically inaccurate information. I also feel I should point out one little thing that tickled me was the old woman who throws a can of beans at Mrs. Carmody was Frances Sternhagen. Sternhagen, who was also in Stephen King adaptation and Oscar winner Misery as the sheriff's wife, that is so lovely seeing
Oh,
her.
really?
Yeah, it's her.
Oh my god, I love that character. I love the pair of them, actually. The sheriff and the sheriff's wife. They're brilliant.
Brilliant. All right. Well, it's an 11 for me. I think it's incredibly powerful. It's a focus on emotions and character dynamics that I really enjoyed. It's got a lot to say. It's a lot more balanced than I worried it might be when I went into this. And I just love the whole vibe of it. And I liked having the emotional trauma of the end. I want more horror to go serious, to go hard and try and break your heart. Waifu is asking, what was the thing that Frances Sternhagen's character said? It was something about, you old buzzard. Shut up, you old buzzard. And it was the best thing. Yeah. If you're going to try it, I think follow the Enriab's advice. Watch the black and white version. Next time I watch it, which I think will be my 7th watch, that's what I'm going to do. I know I'm going to come back to this. Yeah, that was great. So that is me. So it's a 9 from you. It's 11 burgers from me. Very fine ingredients. I think it's possibly sirloin. It's on a brioche bun that's nice and risen, and the seasoning is exquisitely chosen. However, the menu hasn't been designed super well. Some of the graphics on the menu distracted me by being a bit cheap looking. So it's an 11 burgers for me. Miserable old buzzard. That's it. That's the one. All right. Well, we are in danger of coming up on a 3.5-hour stream and incurring the wrath of Super Nanny. But frankly, if we're doing a stream where we're talking about Buffy, that is always a risk. Here's some good news. Black and white version is free on YouTube. I love it. I love it, the owner. That is fantastic news. I found it free elsewhere on the internet. It is out there. But I will draw the stream to a close. I have to give you your horror homework. Well, I gave you advance warning of it, folks. It's going because it is a TV series. You still have time to make it. We're talking 7 episodes that are about 50 minutes long. It is Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass, primarily on Netflix, but I'm sure elsewhere on the internet you will be able to find it. And I have my issues with it, but overall, I tell you, this was a great watch. I love Midnight Mass. Is it Mike Flanagan's best series? Probably I'm emotionally biased towards The Haunting of Hill House, but it's a beauty. And we have got Connor from the Lotus Eaters coming on to discuss it. I absolutely love Connor. I think he's a fantastic addition to the team, and I'm really chuffed that he's going to be joining us all next week to discuss Midnight Mass. So get your watch in. I don't think we'll do a topic. Oh, we might. No, we are going to do a topic. Our topic will be Scream 6 predictions.
Oh.
Right? And I think we might. I'm going to record them, and we'll see who does best out of it. I want some tinfoil prediction, a safe prediction, and
Right.
risky one. We'll get it in there. We'll balance it out. We'll have a range of predictions.
Stu lives.
We want Stu back. In the trailer, he said, "I'm not like any ghost face you've seen before," but that's baiting you because we haven't seen an undead one. It's
Exactly.
Stu. He's back, and this time as a pog.
I tell you what, no, in all seriousness though, I think we're long overdue for a supernatural Scream.
At a certain point in
It's got to happen.
hey, at a certain point
Ghost
in a
face in
series,
space.
yeah, a certain point in a series, they go supernatural. Who said that? Randy Meeks in Scream 3. There we go. All right, get your Scream 6 predictions ready. I will be collecting them from you next week, and we'll see how we do. There is going to be an emergency stream for Scream on the Saturday, so you don't have to rush out. Well, I'll be seeing it midday on the Friday, but you don't have to worry. So you can see it on the Friday night, and then if you want to join me on the emergency stream on the Saturday, you can get a nice fresh review. But I think that's everything from me. You've got your horror homework. You have my gratitude for being here for a lively, exciting stream, a great discussion, great contributions. Thanks again to everyone who super chatted and gave memberships and joined as member. I really appreciate it. It's lovely. It helps me do what I do here. A massive thanks to you, TCG. I hope you enjoyed this.
Yeah, I loved it. It's very good. And can I just also give a shout out to James Harrington as well? He joined as a member on your channel earlier. He's also joined as a member over on my channel and also on Patreon. So thank you, man. You didn't have to join both, but much appreciated. Thank you.
Jason Harrington, you absolute lad.
Yeah.
Was it James Harrington? Hang on, let me get this right.
James Harrington, yeah.
There we go. Forgive me there. James Harrington, you absolute boss. Well done. Thank you for joining. It's much appreciated from both of us. And I do love it. In fact, I'm not saying you all have to sign up and be a member of TCG, but he has very, very reasonable rates. And the guy does make amazing content. And his editing has been getting sweet lately. I will just say.
Thank you.
I appreciate the editing. Well, we're in danger of a 3-hour stream, so I will cut us off here. My thanks again to you, chat. My thanks again to you, TCG. And I will leave it here. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
I'm back now, so #ShowGang.
Nailed it.
Caught you last week.